Hey everyone, per your requests, I'm starting Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San, chapters 1021 through 1040 of the previous episode. The tournament reaches a boiling point as the battle for the throne intensifies. Following a historic double championship, Tang San and Mei Gongzi are hailed as the continent's most formidable new power. During the final tournament phase, Tang San and his ally, the Scourge Dragon Nihil, emerge as a dominating force, easily overwhelming the Savage Tiger King in a match that shocks the watching emperors. The balance of power on Phelan planet shifts dramatically. With the Crystal Demon Emperor deceased and the Adamant Nymph Emperor slain by the Ancestral Tree's residual power, the political landscape is in chaos. The Solstice Empire and the Empyrean Dominion scramble to secure their influence, while the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor attempts to manipulate the tournament to stabilize his waning control. Despite these machinations, Tang San's calculated use of divine artifacts and his mastery over life and annihilation energies keep him a step ahead, paving the way for both his and Mei Gongzi's eventual ascension to the Emperor level. Thank you. Now let's get back to the story of Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San audio series. Chapter 1041. The Undying Demon Emperor said gravely, I believe we can allow him to continue in the round-robin while granting him 2 additional victories as compensation. He already has 2 wins, so this would give him 8 points. With 5 matches remaining, he'd only need to win 1 more to secure a spot in the finals. That's still quite feasible. At the same time, the Ancestral Court should refund him the money he spent to acquire the Scourge Dragon. He may continue to keep the Scourge Dragon in his possession. What do you think of this, Sunborn? Refunding the cost and awarding bonus victories made sense, but it was clearly not a spur-of-the-moment decision. Clearly, the Undying Demon Emperor had thought through this plan, and it was tacitly approved by the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor. 8 points would indeed be a solid advantage, but if Jean Miaolin lost all his remaining matches, he could still be eliminated. In other words, he had to win at least once to have a real shot at the finals. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor calculated silently for a moment, then said, The Blue Gold Tree Clan is not known for combat. That's well understood. Without the Scourge Dragon, I don't think even 8 points will be of much use. The Undying Demon Emperor replied firmly, But if we give him any more, it would truly be unfair to the other contestants. The others already have reason to question the fairness of our rules, so if we do that, we might as well give him a throne outright. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor said, Since we have differing opinions, how about this? We summon clan leader Jean and ask him for his thoughts, and then we can decide. Agreed, said the Undying Demon Emperor. Agreed, echoed the Sunborn Nymph Emperor. In his heart he thought, old fox. That little sprout might be an even older fox than you are. Let's see what he makes you do for him. Why should I be the only one to suffer? Soon Tang San was brought before the emperors. In the meantime, they had convened in the council hall, where the celestial pillars stood tall. Feeling the eyes of the emperors upon him, Tang San respectfully saluted. Jean Miaolin greets the honored emperors. May I ask why I have been summoned? If there ever was an example of playing innocent, this was it. His meaning was clear. I've been following all the rules, so what do you want from me? The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor spoke gently. We've all watched your match today. Your situation is unique. First, rest assured. The Ancestral Court recognizes that you have competed within the rules. You need not worry about that. But because of the Scourge Dragon's special nature, we do have some concerns, and we ask for your understanding. Tang San bowed slightly. Please, Your Majesty, tell me what the problem is. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor said, In your match, your synergy with the Scourge Dragon generated immense power. That power was certainly impressive but also unstable. If you ever lose control of it, it could endanger everyone present. For that reason, we hope you'll agree not to use the Scourge Dragon in your future matches, for the safety of all. In return, the Ancestral Court will compensate you. What do you think? Tang San froze for a moment. He had expected them to straight up forbid him from using the Scourge Dragon and offer some kind of compensation. But he hadn't thought they'd go so far as to craft a pretext that sounded reasonable. Clearly, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor had argued well on his behalf. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he lowered his head, looking as if he was pondering how to give up without losing too much face. The celestial fox demon emperor didn't press him, waiting calmly. After a long pause, Tang San sighed. If the ancestral court wishes me not to contend for the throne, I may as well withdraw entirely. The sunborn nymph emperor's eyes lit up. Haha, as expected, a masterstroke. That's what they call retreating to advance. Before the emperors, his rank was nothing. If he resisted the ancestral court, he'd earn their enmity. But this gesture of resignation, filled with sorrow and respect, would rally sympathy from the Solstice Empire's side. After all, he was one of their city lords. The celestial fox demon emperor raised a hand. Now, let's not make rash decisions. That is not our intent. Your participation has brought honor to this competition. We have discussed it, and to be fair, we will grant you 2 additional victories. That gives you a strong chance at the finals if you can win just 1 or 2 more matches. Also, the money you paid for the Scourge Dragon will be fully refunded. If you have any other ideas, we are willing to hear them. 2 victories and a refund? That matched what Tang San had expected, and it sounded like there was room to negotiate. Those 2 wins wouldn't guarantee a final spot. They wanted to be fair to the others. But they didn't know that Radiant Dragon King Suan Yu had promised Tang San to concede their match. That would give him 10 points, and that would be enough to secure a place. And now he could negotiate for more? Well, don't mind if I do. Tang San showed hesitation, falling silent again. The Golden Mammoth Demon Emperor, ever the impatient kind, growled. If you've got something to say, spit it out. We don't have all day. The matches need to resume. Tang San looked at the sunborn nymph emperor, saw his encouraging nod, and spoke up. Your Majesties, this battle for the throne began as a matchmaking contest. If the ancestral court wishes me not to use the Scourge Dragon, I will comply. I never imagined I could truly claim a throne, but I am devoted to Lady Mei. If I withdraw now, could I ask the ancestral court for permission to wed her? This was the heart of his aim, to secure his bond with Mei Gongzi. If the ancestral court agreed, he truly wouldn't care about withdrawing. As for becoming an emperor, he could build toward that in time. No! The Undying Demon Emperor blurted out. The Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor had almost spoken up too, but Undying was faster. The emperors all looked at the Undying Demon Emperor in surprise, wondering at his vehemence. Realizing his outburst, the Undying Demon Emperor composed himself. This contest is a matchmaking trial. If we grant your request, it's no different than declaring you the winner. That's unacceptable. And besides, you are not the only one who desires Lady Mei's hand. How would we explain it to the others? It was a sound argument. Tang San fell silent again, his face even more forlorn. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor glanced at the Undying, a little surprised at how forceful he had been. It wasn't like him. And now the mood had grown tense. On the Solstice Empire's side, the Emperor's faces darkened. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor said, Clan Leader Jean, please propose another condition. The Ancestral Court will consider it carefully. Tang San remained silent. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor coughed lightly and said, Enough stalling. Just tell us what's on your mind. 0. Tang San sighed softly. Your Majesties, my coming to the Ancestral Court this time was primarily to report in and undergo evaluation as City Lord. My participation in the battle for the throne just so happened to coincide with that. But besides my evaluation, I also submitted an important petition to the Ancestral Court, seeking permission for my clan to remain neutral while serving all main cities. That is, to help enhance the life force of our entire demon continent. But because of the battle for the throne, no decision has been made yet. 0. My reason for seeking neutrality is the survival of my clan. I don't want to see my people hunted as prey ever again. And so, since I have this chance with all the emperors present, may I ask if this request can be granted? If so, there's no need for the dragon race or the council to refund me. The Scourge Dragon is already mine after all. 0. Brilliant. Truly brilliant. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor closed his eyes slightly to hide the admiration flashing within. 0. What a masterful move. Pretending to retreat only to advance, feinting in one direction only to strike in another. 0. He had deliberately asked for permission to marry Mei Gongzi, knowing full well the Ancestral Court wouldn't agree, to create the appearance of aggrieved compliance. Then, at just the right moment, he presented his true demand, even offering to waive the refund, thus securing the dragon race's support and appealing to the tenebrous demon emperor. The sequence of tactics was so subtle and refined that even the Sunborn Nymph Emperor felt slightly outclassed. 0. Of course, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor had no way of knowing that if the ancestral court had actually agreed to his marriage proposal, Tang San would have been 100 times happier to just dump the competition and leave with her. 0. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor frowned slightly. In truth, he wasn't opposed to the Blue Gold Tree clan's neutrality. The reason he delayed acting on it was because he didn't want the Solstice Empire to take credit for pushing it through. Ever since the ancestral tree caused the demise of the Adamant Nymph Emperor, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor had paid special attention to the Blue Gold Tree clan. The ancestral tree's revival had greatly boosted the fortune of the Demon Continent, which was of immense benefit to his clan. And with his lifespan approaching its limits, he had to think about prolonging his life. The Blue Gold Tree clan was an ideal ally for that. 0. But now, with Tang San raising this request in front of everyone, and the Solstice Empire already growing displeased, he had no room left to maneuver or delay. 0. The core reason the Demon Emperors had opposed Tang San using the Scourge Dragon was simple. They didn't want the Nymph side to gain another Emperor position. That was the heart of the Empyrean Dominion's interest in this contest. If Tang San managed to use the Scourge Dragon to claim a throne, it would be intolerable for them. 0. After weighing it all in his mind, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor finally nodded slowly. Very well. Let us vote. All in favor of granting the Blue Gold Tree clan neutrality, raise your hands. 0. The Nymph side had already discussed this at length. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor and the Earthshade Nymph Emperor raised their hands first, followed closely by the other Nymph Emperors. Even the Parasol Tree Nymph Emperor, despite his closeness to the Undying Demon Emperor, raised his hand. Now that it was a formal vote, there was no good reason not to support it. After all, neutrality would benefit all the main cities through enhanced life force. To oppose it would be self-defeating. 4. Seeing the entire Solstice Empire side raise their hands, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor led the Empyrean Dominion in following suit, raising his hand as well. The other Demon Emperors were no fools. None of them would oppose it at this point. 0. Good. Since all are in agreement, then after this battle for the throne concludes, we will ask clan leader Jean to begin preparations for the Blue Gold Tree clan's emigration to the other cities. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor announced. 0. Yes. I thank your majesties. Tang San bowed deeply. I also pledge that starting from the next match, I will no longer have the Scourge Dragon fight on my behalf. 0. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor fixed him with a deep gaze. Clan leader Jean, remember, this was your own initiative. The Ancestral Court, as a gesture of appreciation for your fairness and respect for the contest's integrity, is awarding you 2 additional victories in the round robin. Do you understand? 0. Of course he understood. You're keeping up appearances and at the same time you're making me look good. Win-win. 0. Yes, Jean Miolin understands. 0. Leaving the Grand Assembly Hall, Tang San did not return to the competition grounds. His and Mei Gongzi's matches for the day were done, and there was nothing else worth watching for now. He headed straight back to the White Tiger Hotel. 0. Though Nihil hadn't completed his mission entirely, he had secured Tang San 2 wins and stabilized his place in the round robin. More importantly, Tang San had not revealed any of his true strength just yet. As for the matches to come, he was not worried. He had other cards to play. There was no rush. 0. That evening, the Ancestral Court announced its decision. 0. Due to the instability of the Scourge Dragon's destruction energy when combined with life energy, and the risk of a catastrophic incident, clan leader Jean voluntarily offered not to use the Scourge Dragon in further matches. As a gesture of gratitude for his concern for the competition's safety and fairness, the Ancestral Court awards him 2 additional round-robin victories. 0. The news caused a sensation across the Ancestral Court. Everywhere, people were discussing it. 0. Anyone with a central nervous system could figure out that this wasn't entirely voluntary. But from the perspective of other contestants and their backers, it did seem to level the playing field. At least the disruptive force of that bizarre pairing was gone. Even with the bonus wins, it seemed to many that the Amethystan warrior had effectively concluded his run in this battle for the throne. 3. As night fell, Tang San stepped out of his room and made his way to the dining hall. 0. The White Tiger Hotel had been fully reserved for contestants in this matchmaking tournament. Only contestants and their clans were allowed. Though the hotel was full, it was filled entirely with participants and related personnel. 0. When Tang San entered the hall, it was peak mealtime, and soon many diners noticed his arrival. A chorus of whispers and pointed glances followed. The ancestral court statement had just been issued, and Tang San was at the center of attention. 0. But while people whispered and gossiped, those who met his gaze quickly switched to polite, even respectful smiles. 0. After all, even if the Scourge Dragon could no longer be used in the arena, Tang San was still its master outside it, and today with the Scourge Dragon, he had overwhelmed Donghua, the sky-splitting city lord and behemoth king. 0. After this battle, both demon and nymph spectators came to realize that the blue gold trees could no longer be taken lightly. Even if Tang San failed to claim victory in the battle for the throne, his strength combined with the Scourge Dragons was already at a level that could challenge the emperors themselves. And that was not to even mention the ancestral tree behind him. Before anyone noticed it happening, the Blue Gold Tree clan had become a powerful force to be reckoned with. Tang San swept his gaze around the dining hall. There were no open seats, but soon his eyes lit up as he spotted the person he most wished to see. It was at a large table near the back that could seat 8. Only 3 seats were occupied. And wasn't that Mei Gongzi and her mother sitting there? It seemed they too had arrived a bit late, which was why they hadn't gotten a private room. But why hadn't the White Tiger Grand Hotel arranged one for them? And why weren't they dining upstairs in their large suite? Tang San was curious. But then he saw Mei Gongzi had noticed his arrival, and she actually waved him over. Tang San obviously blinked in surprise and pointed at himself questioningly. Mei Gongzi nodded slightly. Tang San's heart soared, his excitement barely hidden. He quickly made his way over. "May I join you?" Tang San asked cautiously. "Please, clan leader Jean, have a seat," Mei Gongzi said, nodding. Tang San sat opposite her. Though Mei Gongzi still wore a veil, she'd lifted half of it to eat, revealing her soft pink lips. Tang San couldn't help but glance at them. Mei Gongzi seemed to sense it instantly, and the temperature around the table dropped noticeably. "Clan leader Jean, please behave," she said coldly. Oh, sorry. It was subconscious," Tang San said hastily, suppressing a smile. "Did you want to talk to me about something, City Lord Mei?" Mei Gongzi nodded lightly. "I heard the ancestral court approved your clan's neutrality today. I wanted to ask how you plan to approach this. Though we're far across the continent, our Cali city is still one of the main cities. I thought I'd ask for your views." Tang San smiled. "City Lord Mei, if you're willing, I'll even marry into your clan." Mei Gongzi froze, then her brows drew together in visible irritation. "Clan leader Jean, please be serious. I'm here as the Lord of Cali City to discuss official matters." Tang San knew she was suppressing her fury. Were it not for the Blue Gold Tree clan's life energy, an asset for anyone, she likely wouldn't have bothered with him at all. She'd probably heard about his neutrality request through the White Tiger Demon Emperor and was trying to smooth things over. "I meant what I said. From the first time I saw you, I fell in love at first sight. Please don't be angry, City Lord Mei. I know I'm not worthy, and though I admit my heart is bold, surely you can't stop me from admiring you? If not for you, I wouldn't have risked joining the battle for the throne. I say this from the bottom of my heart," Tang San said, his expression open and sincere. Well, of course his expression was sincere. Every word he uttered was the factual truth, though the juicier parts were left unsaid. Mei Gongzi's face remained cold. "That's not what I wanted to discuss. I understand. You want my clan's neutrality to benefit Cali City's life energy development. That's no problem. I can promise you that right now. I will probably not be able to go myself since I might be kept at the ancestral court, but I will at least send a great nymph king to Cali City, or maybe even my little sister. She's not far from becoming a great nymph king herself, and she's from the direct ancestral tree lineage just like me. How's that?" Tang San offered. Mei Gongzi blinked, surprised by his easy agreement. She had expected some difficulty. After all, she had never been friendly to him, and her disdain was no secret. Yet he had promised more than she'd hoped. Considering the Blue Gold Tree clan had only 3 great nymph kings besides Jean Mirolan himself, it was remarkable he would allocate one to Kali City. She'd only hoped for a powerful nymph king. As for Jean Miaosan, she was the clan leader's sister, who would just randomly dispatch their family members to the literal opposite end of the continent. "Thank you, clan leader Jean," Mei Gongzi said, her expression softening. "You haven't eaten yet, have you? Allow me to treat you tonight. Is there anything you'd like?" Tang San smiled wryly. "I have no special requests. Just being able to dine with you is an honor. But I will say this. In our entire Blue Gold Tree clan, I am the only one who can truly channel life energy at the ancestral tree's level. If you truly want Kali City to thrive, you should consider marrying me. That way I can come to Kali City openly. Please don't be angry now, I'm simply stating a fact." Mei Gongzi said coolly. "Clan leader Jean, I understand that. But please also understand that's beyond what we can manage. We'll gladly accept the great nymph king, and we will welcome your sister with open arms should she come. My clan will form an alliance with yours for mutual support." Of course, Tang San nodded, inwardly amused. She totally intends to bring the Blue Gold Tree clan's elders to the Skytree domain to aid humanity. She had no idea this was Tang San's plan all along. That was, in fact, the most important purpose of the neutrality proposal. Being able to send blue gold trees to the new human territory without anyone thinking it was weird. Seeing Tang San's meek demeanor, Mei Gongzi's coldness thawed slightly. She inclined her head. "Clan leader Jean, I apologize for my earlier rudeness. I hope our clans can work closely together in the future." "Of course," Tang San replied. "If this also lets me admire you openly, so much the better." Mei Gongzi ordered several more dishes, and for the first time, shared a meal with Jean Miaolan. Luo Qingzhu asked, "Clan leader Jean, I've heard you spent years traveling, and you even went to the Empyrean Dominion. Have you ever been to Kali City?" Tang San smiled. "Of course. I vowed to see every corner of the continent in search of a future for my clan. I visited Kali City, and even glimpsed City Lord Mei's face once. That was when I fell in love at first sight."
Mei Gongzi frowned.
"Can we please not revisit this subject?" Tang San spread his hands in mock helplessness. "I couldn't help myself. But I'll stop, I promise." "And what did you think of Kali City?" asked Luo Qingzhu. Tang San replied, "More prosperous than I imagined. Your clan's management is exceptional, far beyond what we were able to do in our Skytree City. We have some valuable resources but little else." The corners of Mei Gongzi's mouth twitched slightly. "That's not what people are saying outside. Everyone's saying your Blue Gold Tree clan is the richest of all." Tang San replied, "We wouldn't dare claim that. It's just that our clan's history is quite long, and our fruits and whatnot not only have amazing effects, but more importantly, they're effective for anyone of any race. Naturally, we've accumulated a bit of wealth. But on the other side, that's also brought great disaster upon our people. When I traveled outside, I didn't even dare reveal my identity for fear of, well, you know." Luo Qingzhu sighed. "The Blue Gold Tree clan's life energy is of great help to all races. I am truly sorry that instead of appreciating the blessings you can bring, people have treated you like nothing more than a resource. But I can assure you that Kali City has never done such things. We've only ever engaged in fair trade to purchase Blue Gold Tree resources like dry branches and the likes." Tang San nodded sincerely. "I didn't mean to imply anything, so don't worry about that. I may not trust others, but I trust the integrity of Lord Mei." Luo Qingzhu probed gently about the Blue Gold Tree clan, especially about the ancestral tree, and Tang San made no effort to conceal anything. What he'd said to the ancestral court, he repeated to them. Dinner went smoothly. On the surface at least, Mei Gongzi's attitude toward Tang San softened. She no longer kept him away with cold disdain. After the meal, Mei Gongzi and her second mother said their goodbyes and returned upstairs. Watching their graceful figures depart, Tang San's lips curled in a faint smile. With news of the Blue Gold Tree clan's neutrality spreading, he knew more main cities would soon come knocking. Who could resist? And more importantly, why should they resist? It was a great return on zero investment. Being coveted by all but owned by none was dangerous. Being everyone's shared asset meant being treasured by all. The Blue Gold Tree clan's near destruction had come from failing to grasp that simple truth. Back upstairs, Mei Gongzi and her two mothers sat together in their living room. Important things had to be discussed. What do you think of this Jin Miaolin? Mei Gongzi asked. Luo Qingzhu narrowed her eyes thoughtfully. Well, if you want a woman's perspective, I think he truly likes you. A person's eyes don't lie, and the way he looks at you is not the kind of lustful gaze you might get from others. He looks at you with genuine emotion. I think he seems pretty honest. Su Qin, what do you think?
Suin smiled bitterly.
I'm hardly qualified to give opinions. I'm a failure in such matters myself. Luo Qingzhu chuckled in a somewhat helpless manner. You know, Lin Shima has come seeking you more than once. He's shown plenty of sincerity. Why not give him a chance to make amends? Su Qin's expression darkened slightly. She shook her head. No need. Some things are impossible to get past. Let's talk about little Mei. Luo Qingzhu sighed inwardly. She had grown fond of Su Qin and Mei Gongzi, and now that old grudges turned out to be baseless, she truly wished for Su Qin's happiness. She hated seeing her always so melancholy. Mei Gongzi quickly changed the subject. If Jin Miaolin is truly here for me, that could be troublesome. But didn't he promise to send at least one great demon king to aid us? That's more than we expected. Luo Qingzhu pointed out. I'm just worried he'll keep pestering me. That would be annoying, Mei Gongzi said. If that happened, she would truly feel a lot of undue pressure. Luo Qingzhu smiled. If not for Tang San, Jin Miaolin would actually be a good match. He truly likes you. His clan is peaceful and produces resources everyone needs. He holds the ancestral tree's true legacy. And now, with the scourged dragon at his side, he has strength practically on par with ordinary emperors. A union between our two clans would be mutually beneficial. The only issue is the distance between our cities. But with that said, his move for neutrality is brilliant. Speaking from the perspective of a city ruler and clan leader now, Jin Miaolin is no simple man. His victories may look like luck, or the result of some artifacts he'd happen to come across at the auction. And they are, in a sense. But why did he acquire these items and not others? What did he see in these items, which sold at modest prices compared to others, that others didn't? That takes vision. And after choosing them so well, he also wields them perfectly. Even if his strength is not up to par compared to his most exceptional peers, his intelligence is beyond them. Little Mei, if he reaches the finals, you must not underestimate him. Mei Gongzi nodded slightly. Do you think he can make it? Luo Qingzhu nodded back and said seriously, I have a feeling he will. He already has 2 victories plus 2 bonus wins, so he's ahead of everyone else. If he somehow gets one more win, he should indeed secure a top 3 finish. And don't forget, he hasn't even used all the items he bought at the auction. Mei Gongzi's eyes flickered. I didn't expect him to become the biggest wild card. Su Qin added, Speaking of that, little Mei, have you tried reaching Tang San? It's like he vanished since the finals began. Could he be disguised as one of the female contestants? Mei Gongzi's expression dimmed. Tang San had said he'd cut contact to avoid discovery and had important plans, which of course made sense, but she still felt his absence keenly. I believe him. If he says he'll succeed, then he'll succeed. I won't disturb his plans, she said firmly. Through the Azura sword, she could contact him in an emergency, but she wouldn't jeopardize his mission. Luo Qingzhu nodded. Focus on your own matches. If you win the championship, your fate is in your hands. This isn't like the Ancestral Court's elite competition. The champion here is guaranteed to become an emperor. And if you prove yourself here, then whether Tang San is here or not, nobody will force you to marry against your will. Her words gave Mei Gongzi strength. Yes, if I win, I choose my own path. Worst case, I'll pick a female contestant just to stall. Once I'm emperor, who can stop me? The Poing team's thoughts. Penguin man, can Su Qin cut Lin Shima some fucking slack now? Bruh. Yes. As long as you win the championship, even the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor won't force you anymore. Su Qin's beautiful eyes brightened as she chimed in. Luo Qingzhu gave a wry smile. It's not that we didn't think of it before, but that we never believed little Mei could actually win the championship. Who would have imagined that she would become so strong? And it's all thanks to Tang San. You know, I used to resent Tang San a little for costing us the celestial plume, but now I feel that was a small price to pay. The power of Little Mei's divine sword is simply too great. I think she truly has a shot at winning. Among the divine weapons we've seen so far, only the light sprite of Radiant Dragon King Suan Yu comes close.
Mei Hongxi smiled faintly.
She certainly wasn't about to explain what the Azura Godsword actually was and what level it was at. Compared to it, what was the light sprite? But her mothers were right. If she could win the championship, everything would fall into place. She couldn't always rely on Tang San. To truly control her own destiny, she needed to seize it herself. Her beautiful eyes glowed with firm resolve at the thought. Just as Tang San expected, the moment he returned to his residence, he was told that letters and notes from all sides were flooding in, mostly from people requesting meetings with him. He instructed the Grand Elder to tell them he was in seclusion preparing for the next match, and that any meetings would have to wait until after the battle for the throne. The Blue Gold Tree clan's neutral status wasn't just a boon for the clan. It made Tang San, as clan leader, a highly sought-after figure. Even Mei Gongzi, who had been so cold to him, had come to seek him out. What need was there to mention the other main cities? The Blue Gold Tree clan would be sending powerful representatives to various main cities, but who was sent mattered greatly. The dozens of Nymph King Elders were good, the 3 great Nymph King Elders were great, but the most valued of all was Jin Miaosen. After all, the only direct descendants of the ancestral tree were Jin Miaolan and his sister. As Lord of Skytree City, Jin Miaolan would naturally be either in his own city or at the ancestral court. That left Jin Miaosen, and if she became a great nymph king, which she undoubtedly would, the benefits of having her around would be enormous. And here Tang San's absolute authority in the clan paid off. The Grand Elder reported that all those who couldn't see Tang San personally had tried to negotiate with the elders, but had been firmly refused. The reason was simple. All final decisions rested with clan leader Jin Miaolan. Tang San wanted to cultivate this image of himself as a precious resource. That way, even in the coming matches, few would want to make enemies of him. After all, Blue Gold Tree life energy benefited everyone, and the clan's coffers were massive and packed full. Combined with Jin Miaolin's power alongside the Scourge Dragon, they were practically among the real powerhouses of this world. He'd been building up for this for a long time, and finally all the pieces were falling into place. In fact, it was better even than he'd hoped. Losing the right to pair with Nihil in battle had been well worth it to secure Blue Gold Tree neutrality. The night passed quietly as all these matters continued to ferment. The next morning, as usual, Tang San and the elders took their carriage to the arena. Just as they entered through the VIP passage, they ran into familiar faces. Starting with today's opponent, Radiant Dragon King Suan Yu. Suan Yu approached with a friendly smile, placing a hand on Tang San's shoulder. In a low voice he said, "Today's our match. Don't worry, Brother Jin. Whatever other people say or do, I stand by my word. Today you'll have 10 points and be sure to advance." Tang San noted that his interlocutor was no longer calling him the formal clan leader Jin. "Thank you, Brother Su," Tang San said with a smile. Suan Yu added quietly, "I hope you won't think me too forward, but I heard about your clan's neutral status. That's unprecedented. You're truly brilliant, I have to say. This will ensure your clan is protected for good. Since our dragon race and your clan are allies now, if I become Lord of Crystal City, I hope you'll support me. We'll look out for each other." Tang San chuckled. "Of course. Actually, when that happens, I'll come to Crystal City personally to congratulate you for inheriting the Dragon Lord throne. And I won't come empty-handed." That pleased Suan Yu immensely. Tang San's promise to visit showed real sincerity. He slapped Tang San's shoulder merrily and headed inside. Then, Ning Chenen came sidling up with a big grin. "Brother Jin, congratulations. Your clan's greatest worry is solved, and you are now a true blue big shot. We've bumped into each other a lot lately, and I hope we'll keep in touch." It was as if he'd forgotten all his previous mockery. His smile was utterly sincere. Tang San smiled back. "Why, Brother Ning, thank you for the kind words. But are you representing the Golden Mammoth clan, or the Adamant Nymph clan when you say that?" Ning Chenen's expression shifted slightly but quickly recovered. Of course I represent the Golden Mammoth clan. I have no ties to the Adamant Nymph clan. I told you that from the start, no? Tang San chuckled. It doesn't matter. Though the Adamant Nymph clan harmed my clan before, their emperor is gone. And since we've chosen neutrality, we'll treat everyone equally. We'll send people to help their growth too. After all, they need life energy even more than most. No worries, Brother Ning. That surprised Ning Chenen. He gave Tang San a thumbs up, and this time it was truly heartfelt. You know, you really are a true model of virtue. If I were in your place, I really don't know if I could repay evil with kindness. Tang San smiled modestly. I don't deserve the praise. In fact, he'd already decided who to send to Adamant City. Ironically, it was the safest place. The ancestral tree had personally slain the Adamant Nymph Emperor there. So who would dare harm a blue gold tree now? Even the ancestral court couldn't touch the ancestral tree, due to it merging with the plane itself and governing all life. The tree's revival changed everything, and that was why the emperors treated Tang San so courteously now. One reason they hadn't approved blue gold tree neutrality at first was also fear that the clan would become too influential, but after prohibiting Tang San from using the Scourge Dragon and effectively preventing him from getting an emperor's seat, they'd had no choice but to relent. Now he was finally able to set a solid foundation for his long-term plan. Suddenly, a towering figure approached and bowed deeply to Tang San. Tang San said in surprise, Lord Jin, what are you doing? Please rise. This is not proper. The one bowing in front of him was none other than yesterday's opponent, Donghua. The Behemoth King looked ashamed. Clan leader Jin, I'm here to apologize for yesterday. I wrongly judged a gentleman with the heart of a petty man. You showed integrity and magnanimity, yet I disrupted your next matches. I feel truly guilty. Yesterday when you yelled unfair, you sure didn't look like you thought that, Tang San thought inwardly, but outwardly he kept a calm expression. This had nothing to do with you, Lord Jin. I was the one who took the initiative to tell the ancestral court that I will no longer use the Scourge Dragon. Indeed, fighting 2-on-1 would be unfair. The ancestral court surely didn't anticipate such a situation when they set the rules. I've already gained an advantage, so how could I keep undermining the fairness of the battle for the throne? If anything, I should be the one apologizing. I've made things more difficult for you in the remaining matches. Donghua gave a bitter smile. How could I blame you, Brother Jin? It was my own lack of strength. Enough said. Once this tournament is over, I'll definitely invite you for a good drink. Beside them, Ning Chenen smiled. It's about time. Let's head in and prepare. Today Brother Jin has the first match, doesn't he? Indeed, the first bracket of the male division had reached a clash of the strong. Two contenders with 2 wins each were to face off. Tang San and Suan Yu. Flanked by Ning Chenen and Donghua, Tang San once again stepped onto the arena grounds. While the upper echelons were aware of Blue Gold Tree Clan's new neutral status and everything it involved, the regular spectators weren't. Yet as Tang San entered the rest area, a deafening cheer erupted from the stands, louder than for any other competitor. Most of it was indignation on Tang San's behalf. Anyone with 3 connected brain cells could tell that he had been forced by the ancestral court to forego the Scourge Dragon. It was hardly his choice as per the report. He'd paid for it fair and square and competed by the rules, yet was now barred from using it. That was plainly unfair. The crowd didn't dare openly defy the ancestral court, but raising a ruckus? They sure weren't afraid to do that. So as Tang San entered the field, that tidal wave of cheering was like a series of slaps to the faces of the ancestral court's emperors. Tang San cupped his hands toward the audience in thanks, then went straight into the competitors' rest area without lingering. Because of their earlier conversations, they were the last to enter the arena. Silence! A low voice rang out from the mountainside, and the powerful pressure it bore swiftly quieted the crowd. Those who had been there for the spectacle also fell silent under that unparalleled might. The tournament continues with round 3 of the semifinals. Contestants of the first match of the male division take the platform. The celestial fox demon emperor spoke flatly. Tang San stepped out from the rest area. On the other side, Radiant Dragon King Suan Yu also emerged. The two exchanged a glance and rose into the air, landing in the arena. Today's referee was the Earthshade Nymph Emperor. a lithe silhouette shrouded in dark blue gloom. Though she was not even intentionally releasing her aura, her descent onto the arena brought a chill to the air. "Greetings, Your Majesty." Both Tang San and Suan Yu bowed respectfully. "Prepare yourselves," the Earthshade Nymph Emperor said evenly. Suan Yu looked at Tang San with a warm smile, then turned to the Earthshade Nymph Emperor and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, I forfeit this match." Though Tang San had expected this, the bluntness of the declaration left him a little taken aback. As for those who hadn't expected this, which included everyone else, really they were absolutely flabbergasted. The declaration caused an uproar across the stands. Even the Earthshade Nymph Emperor was momentarily surprised. She looked at Suan Yu. "Are you aware of what you are saying? This is the battle for the throne, not a junior's casual competition. Are you certain you wish to forfeit?" Suan Yu nodded earnestly. "Yes. Clan leader Jin has done my dragon race a great service. He rescued the Scourge Dragon, resolving a major problem for us. He is thus considered an eternal friend of the dragon race. In gratitude for his gesture, and with all the well wishes of the dragons I represent, I choose to forfeit this match." "Thank you, Brother Su," Tang San said with a small smile, inclining his head respectfully. Indeed, Suan Yu was worthy of such respect. Meanwhile, the stands were in an uproar. He'd won? Clan leader Jin had won again? What did that mean? While Radiant Dragon King Suan Yu only had 4 points so far, Tang San already had 10. Even a perfect 7-win record would be 14 points. With 10 already, Tang San had 1 foot in the finals. Unless 2 other contestants caught up, he was essentially guaranteed a spot. And he still had 4 matches to go. Who could say he wouldn't win again? Other competitors were stunned. The black horse of the Blue Gold Tree Clan seemed set to gallop even farther. Jean Miaolin of the Blue Gold Tree Clan wins. "You may leave the platform," the Earthshade Nymph Emperor announced. Content that the winner was from the Solstice Empire side. Though the Blue Gold Tree Clan was neutral now, Skytree City was still within Solstice Empire territory, and Jean Miaolin was a nymph. Favoring his own was a given. Once more victorious without a fight, Tang San returned to the rest area. The other competitors, watching this, couldn't help but reconsider their strategies. The Dragon Race's move was brilliant. Suan Yu's strength, especially with his light sprite, was more than enough to reach the finals anyway. Surrendering 1 match wouldn't hurt him, and it secured the Blue Gold Tree Clan's goodwill. And with the Scourge Dragon in the mix, this forged an even stronger alliance, essential as Suan Yu vied for Crystal City and the Dragon Lord throne. With the Blue Gold Tree's backing, it was like gaining the support of an emperor. All sorts of calculations raced through everyone's minds. In her own VIP pavilion, Mei Gongzi frowned slightly. Luo Qingzhu, who was sitting beside her, commented, "It seems they value this Jean Miaolin even more than we expected. If even the dragon race acted, others will surely follow. He's already got 10 points, and looks very likely to reach the finals."
Sui nodded.
"Sister, you were right yesterday. We really can't underestimate Jean Miaolin. Thinking back on all he's done, it's clear he's as cunning as an old fox. Every step he takes seems ordinary or even ridiculous, but the results speak for themselves. If he makes the finals, little Mei, you should be on your guard against him." Mei Gongzi's frown eased, though her eyes showed that she was deep in thought. "Be careful in your match." Indeed, it was Mei Gongzi's turn. Her opponent, Lan Machin of the Behemoth clan, like her, undefeated so far. Unlike the other behemoths, who favored their claws, Lan Machin fought with a sword. She'd even once competed with Mei Gongzi for the Shadow Fiend's sword. Now the two would clash in battle, and whoever won would have 1 foot in the finals. As long as they performed normally afterward, they'd almost certainly secure a spot. Contestants of the first female match, take the platform. Mei Gongzi and Lan Machin emerged from their pavilions almost simultaneously, neither glancing at the other, and leapt together onto the platform. There were only 3 female contestants from the demon clans who had made it to the semi-finals. Both Mei Gongzi and Lan Machin had displayed astonishing strength in their previous matches, each securing 2 victories. This match would practically determine which of the female demon contestants would stand at the pinnacle. The other demon contestant, who was in the second bracket, had already suffered a defeat. The judge of the match was still the Earthshade Nymph Emperor. Both sides prepare. Lan Maqin looked at Mei Gongzi. She did not reveal her behemoth form, choosing to maintain her human shape instead. One grasp at the void with her right hand, and a giant sword fell into her palm. The blade was 2 meters long and about 20 centimeters wide. It was pitch black and clearly immensely heavy. It also looked mottled and dull, as if whittled down by the passing of many millennia. Yet at the same time it emanated an ancient, majestic aura. Lan Maqin gripped the hilt with both hands and drove the tip into the platform. She then closed her eyes and stood still, as if sensing something. In that instant, Mei Gongzi had the illusion that she had vanished into thin air. Though standing right there, she seemed not to exist at all. Was this the unity of human and nature? Her entire being had merged with the world, the force of heaven and earth becoming part of her own momentum. Mei Gongzi's expression immediately turned solemn, and unlike in her previous 2 matches, she did not summon her space domain this time. A red glow flashed at her brow, and the Azura shadow sword fell into her hand. An indescribable phenomenon followed. Mei Gongzi's entire being seemed to fuse with the Azura shadow sword. Lan Maqin seemed to vanish, while Mei Gongzi became one with her sword, blade and wielder as one. At that moment, it felt as if there was only this one sword in existence between heaven and earth. As the spectators gazed at the Azura sword, any darkness in their hearts involuntarily stirred with shame. Under the sword's aura, their bodies and souls trembled. The Azura sword was the sword of justice. All by itself it was judge, jury, and executioner. Even in its divine realm, it was among the mightiest of transcendent divine items, if not the mightiest. In fact, in terms of status, it ranked even above Tang San Sea God's trident. Begin! The Earthshade Nymph Emperor instantly declared the start of the match, not lingering for a moment longer than she had to. Both contestants' sword intents were already pressing against the barrier she had set earlier, and even with her cultivation, she felt discomfort. The instant the barrier was withdrawn, Lan Maqin opened her eyes. Still gripping the hilt with both hands, she lifted the heavy sword sharply and struck upward. A black flash seemed to swallow all light from heaven as it slashed toward Mei Gongzi. Mei Gongzi's eyes shone brightly. She did not dodge. Instead, the Azura shadow sword slashed downward in a flash. The Azura sword had never known retreat, no matter the opponent. A piercing metallic clang instantly rang through the entire arena. The next moment, cracking sounds came from the barrier covering the platform. A deep blue light instantly descended from above, enveloping the shield. The Earthshade Nymph Emperor had acted, exerting her full strength to protect it. A pure clash, sword versus sword. Neither side had used their domain powers or their bloodline power to any measurable extent. Yet the shockwave of their clash was the wildest seen since the start of the tournament. Mei Gongzi's long hair turned a dark red in that instant, her eyes shining with profound divine light. The Azura shadow sword in her hand radiated brilliant red light. On the other side, Lan Maqin's heavy sword blocked Mei Gongzi's strike. The heavy blade did not cut. It really was as dull as it seemed. What it did, however, was vibrate continuously. Each vibration seemed to generate one sword shadow. These shadows shattered one after another under the Azura sword's pressure. The heavy sword suddenly quaked violently, over a dozen sword shadows shattering at once. Lan Maqin staggered back, her sturdy frame unexpectedly showing signs of instability. "What a sword!" Tang San exclaimed in admiration. "Indeed, what a sword!" Ning Chenen's voice carried utter shock. Lan Maqin was his wife. Of course he knew the sword she wielded. Why did a behemoth use a sword? It had much to do with the heavy sword in her hand. The sword was named Grief. It was of course a divine item, an ancient artifact, obtained by the sky-splitting demon emperor by sheer chance. The sword had only one ability, shock. What did that entail? To put it simply, it generated shockwaves, and each of these shockwaves carried the full power of the user's entire cultivation. In other words, when Lan Maqin struck, Grief struck not just once but multiple times, and each strike was as powerful as the one before. More importantly, they were not separate. Once they were launched, they merged together. The shock was nothing more than that. Pure blunt force. But the Behemoth clan excelled in strength above all. So was there a user more appropriate for this sword than a behemoth? After long deliberation, the sky-splitting demon emperor had chosen Lan Maqin as the sword's inheritor. and Lan Maqian did not disappoint, displaying incredible talent, tremendous strength, and profound understanding of swordsmanship. She had even trained under the sword Saint Demon Emperor, and even he acknowledged that she had an innate gift for the sword. Since acquiring the sword, she had practiced with it until she reached the level of 9-fold shock. That meant a single slash would generate 9 shockwaves, each equivalent to a full power strike. As a top great demon king of one of the strongest clans, when she wielded grief, she was basically unstoppable. Not even Jin Onghua was capable of defeating her. At best, they would be evenly matched. Meanwhile, if she decided to give Ning Chunen a well-deserved beating, he could only defend passively. He had no way of dealing with her other than his thick hide. Yet this mighty sword had met the Azura sword, and all 9 shockwaves shattered. The Azura sword's unshakable intent of judgment could not be disturbed, not even by the 9-fold shock. Instead, Lan Maqian felt grief tremble and give in of its own accord, forcing her to retreat. This was not a gap in cultivation. If anything, her cultivation was superior. It was a difference in the tier of their divine items. What Tang San praised as a good sword was, of course, grief. To clash head-on with the power of the Azura sword without breaking showed its remarkable quality. It was certainly above the radiant dragon spear in every respect. What Ning Chunen bitterly acknowledged as a good sword referred to the Azura sword's overwhelming suppression of grief. With the Shadow Fiend sword as its vessel, the Azura sword had become a true corporeal existence, many times stronger than the ethereal sword intent Mei Gongzi had displayed back in the day. With it in hand, Mei Gongzi was far more than a tiger with wings. The moment their initial clash ended, both moved again. Grief turned into countless sword shadows in the air. The heavy sword had no edge, and great skill appeared clumsy. Lan Maqian was not one for brute force alone. In swordsmanship, she was among the absolute best of her generation. Dozens of sword lights bloomed in the sky, each carrying tremendous shock power ready to explode at a single touch. In an instant, the sword shadows surrounded Mei Gongzi from all directions. Is my sword inferior to yours? Is my divine item inferior to yours? Then I will suppress you with my cultivation, and I will suppress you with my swordsmanship. Lan Maqian had observed Mei Gongzi's previous matches carefully, and was certain that in terms of sheer bloodline power, Mei Gongzi was inferior to her. Both bore first-tier bloodlines, but as a behemoth, a member of one of the strongest clans, she had great confidence in her bloodline power. Facing the sword lights, Mei Gongzi did not choose to teleport away. The tip of the Azura Shadow sword in her hand inscribed subtle circles in the air, as if following the trajectories of unknown stars. Glimmers of starlight flashed in the sky. Lan Maqian's sword was astonishingly fast. That seemingly weighty grief was light as a feather in her hands, and every single move was executed with incredible speed. Mei Gongzi's sword, by contrast, appeared slow, yet seemed to embody the ultimate truth of the heavens. With each small circle it drew a number of sword lights was led astray. Not a single one was able to strike her. The Peacock Demon Clan's legacy divine technique, Star Shift. The clash between the two had begun. Lan Maqian's sword grew faster and faster, countless dense sword lights flying in a frenzied manner around Mei Gongzi. But Mei Gongzi continued calmly wielding the Azura Shadow sword. Every stroke of hers was imbued with the essence of Star Shift, redirecting the sword lights aimed at her toward empty space. One fast, one slow, one in motion, one at rest. Both were top masters of the sword and masters of top swords. The audience was dazzled and thoroughly exhilarated. Witnessing such a peak-level duel was without a doubt the fortune of a lifetime. Lan Maqian launched wave after wave of attacks, but Mei Gongzi was like a spinning marble. Everything slipped by her, unable to strike head-on. At the same time, Lan Maqian also dared not truly clash grief against the Azura Shadow sword. So while it seemed she was the one taking the initiative, as she was attacking non-stop, in reality, she held no advantage, and her consumption was even greater than Mei Gongzi's. Though at their level, such depletion was quickly recovered. In a contest between masters, sometimes victory or defeat was decided in a mere instant. Seeing Mei Gongzi's composed demeanor, Lan Maqian realized that without doing her absolute best, defeating this Peacock Demon Clan leader would be exceedingly difficult. Before this battle for the throne began, Mei Gongzi hadn't garnered much attention. After all, she'd only been a great demon king for a little while. Meanwhile, the other participants were almost all peak Great Demon and Great Nymph Kings, some with years of renown. Lan Maqian herself was a famed princess of the Behemoth clan, and it was Ning Chenen's luck of a lifetime that she had married him. The two were an excellent couple, both hailed as possessing the bearing of an emperor. Lan Maqian had always held herself in high esteem, and she was determined to break through all barriers and seize the emperor's throne. In the semifinals, Donghua had already lost 2 matches, while she had won 2. For the coming matches, surely she had the better chance to reach the finals. But she hadn't expected Mei Gongzi to be this difficult to deal with, far more troublesome than she had imagined. She could no longer afford to hold back. Lan Maqian's eyes suddenly shone brightly. In the next moment, as her sword lights flickered, she rose into the air. And then, a second heavy sword appeared in her left hand. Yes, another heavy sword. But unlike Grief, which looked dark and dull, this one glowed with a blue crystalline light, the shimmering radiance like flowing water upon its surface. Yet this heavy sword was not simply a water attribute item. With one simple swing, immense pressure descended from the heavens. When Mei Gongzi tried to use Star Shift to redirect it, the space energy failed to deflect the blue sword at first contact. Instead, the heavy blade broke through the spatial power and continued crashing toward Mei Gongzi. At the same time, Grief unleashed another 9-fold shock, and 9 sword lights slashed at Mei Gongzi from another direction. Divine Sword Heavy Water. This divine sword contained within it 100 tons of heavy water. Only its master would not feel its weight. This was no weaker than Grief, a true trump card. In fact, the true core divine item of Lan Maqian's Sea of Consciousness was not Grief, but precisely this heavy water. Grief's shock force was too hard to control, but heavy water was perfect for guarding and striking head-on. At this moment, Lan Maqian was finally fighting with all her strength. Mei Gongzi, caught off guard by her opponent's sudden change, instantly fell into disadvantage. The sheer weight of heavy water, combined with Lan Maqian's strength, brought crushing pressure, tearing the surrounding space apart. At the same time, Lan Maqian stomped down with full power. It was the innate ability that all elephant and mammoth clans, as well as the Behemoths, shared war stomp. But this was a far cry from what Tang San had experienced back in the day. At the Great Demon King level, the shock didn't just affect the ground but the entire space. Space around them shattered, eliminating Mei Gongzi's chance to teleport away. Since Lan Maqian had brought out the heavy water divine sword, this would be settled in one blow. In the rest area, Ning Chenen's eyes lit up at the sight, and his fists clenched involuntarily. Victory was at hand. Tang San, on the other hand, remained calm. If Mei Gongzi was the kind to lose due to such a change in the opponent's strategy, he wouldn't have let her compete at all. Tang San understood Mei Gongzi's strength better than she did herself. Facing what seemed like a desperate situation, Mei Gongzi made no attempt to dodge via teleportation. Instead, she stood firm, and her aura grew increasingly ethereal. She moved her entire right arm from the shoulder, and the Azura Shadow sword in her hand swept through the air in a full circle, leaving a red trail behind it, a ring of red light that lingered even after the motion was done. In an instant, whether it was Heavy Water's power attack or Grief's 9-fold shock, everything vanished like clay oxen entering the sea. All traces of sword intent and sword energy simply disappeared into the void. To Lan Maqian, it felt as if the one before her was not a person but a black hole, swallowing everything she unleashed. Even the shattered space caused by War Stomp was rapidly healed within that red ring. "This was a bit of my personal celestial dance," Mei Gongzi said softly. "Now, since you've gotten your turn already, you should also take a strike from me." The Azura Shadow sword blazed with dazzling red light. Lan Maqian suddenly felt that Mei Gongzi loomed taller. The Azura Shadow sword seemed magnified countless times over, carrying incomparable sword intent as it slashed toward her. Instinctively, she raised both swords over her head to block. "Enough!" A deep and soft female voice rang out. Lan Maqian felt her body lighten, and the next thing she knew, she was airborne. She clearly saw the red light slash down, and then the giant platform was split cleanly in two, cleaved down the middle like a giant chunk of tofu. Cold sweat broke out all over her, and she involuntarily shivered. That sword just now, if she had tried to block it directly, would her twin divine swords have held? Would she have survived? Without a doubt, the Earthshade Nymph Emperor had judged that she wouldn't have, and so had ended the match. Mei Gongzi stood at the center of the platform, seemingly pondering something. Only after a long pause did she slowly put away the Azura Shadow Sword and bow to the Earthshade Nymph Emperor. Mei Gongzi from the Peacock Demon Clan wins, the Earthshade Nymph Emperor announced. In the rest area, Tang San and Ning Chen wore completely different expressions. Tang San's was one of satisfaction. That single sword was enough to tell him Mei Gongzi's entry into the finals was assured. She even had the qualifications to become one of the 3 to seize an emperor's seat. That seemingly simple strike was the fusion of Mei Gongzi's own abilities, and at the same time it was an epiphany. An insight into the power of the Azura sword, and also into her own bloodline power. The mysterious circles of heaven combined with Star Shift. Star Shift wasn't merely about redirecting attacks. It could return them upon the attacker. In earlier clashes, Mei Gongzi hadn't done so because Lan Maqian's offensive power was too great, and the divine items put too much pressure on her. But in that last blow, Mei Gongzi combined the mysterious circles of heaven with Star Shift. That strike was powered not just by her own strength, but also by Lan Maqian's myriad sword lights, all drawn together and unleashed through the Azura sword. That strike's power had well and truly reached the level of an emperor's serious strike. If something like that was combined with the power of the transcendent Azura sword, then it was understandable that not just Lan Maqian, but even the Earthshade Nymph Emperor herself wouldn't want to meet it head-on. Otherwise, as the referee, she wouldn't have pulled Lan Maqian away but simply blocked the strike herself. All the emperors knew of the loss suffered by the endless Nymph Emperor at the Azura sword's edge, and had already come to regard Mei Gongzi's divine item with new respect. Moreover, the power of this last strike had far surpassed the previous one. Even with her great strength, the Earthshade Nymph Emperor couldn't feel confident in completely blocking it. It was clear that Mei Gongzi's fusion of the Azura sword, the mysterious circles of heaven, and Star Shift hadn't been something she had mastered beforehand, but rather an insight she had suddenly grasped under immense pressure. Otherwise, the mysterious circles of heaven could have neutralized Lan Maqian's attack, but the follow-up strike wouldn't have been that simple sword. It would have been some other divine technique Tang San had taught her that might secure victory. She lost. She actually lost. Ning Chen stood there murmuring in a daze. He truly hadn't expected Lan Maqian to lose this match. Who better than him to understand Lan Maqian's strength and heritage? Her 2 divine heavy swords possessed immense might, and she even had the blue gold fruit obtained at the grand auction. No matter how grievously injured, she could swiftly restore her peak combat strength. Yet in the end, with the Earthshade Nymph Emperor stepping in to stop the match, and Lan Maqian respectfully bowing in thanks afterward rather than questioning the decision, it proved that Mei Gongzi's final strike had truly threatened her life. She hadn't even had the chance to use the blue gold fruit. And if an opponent of the same level had the power to kill her before she could do anything about it. It's just one match, there are many more to come, sounded Tang San's voice. Ning Chen turned and saw the smile on Tang San's face. He sighed. I truly hadn't expected the Lord of Kali City to have reached such heights of strength. No wonder when my brother-in-law went to propose marriage, he was rejected. With power like that, even my brother-in-law might not be able to win. When he mentioned Donghua, his bitter smile deepened. Though Lan Maqian had lost today, at least she had won her first 2 matches. Donghua, on the other hand, had already lost twice. And today's opponent was no ordinary one. It was none other than Lu Fuyao. Sure, Lu Fuyao had surrendered against Tang San last time, and indeed he had 2 losses. But unlike in the case of many others, his losses had both been voluntary, and he had expended no energy in the round robin. As for the elimination rounds prior, he had shown formidable strength. In other words, today's match would be very tough for Donghua as well. Mei Gongzi returned to the rest area, her beautiful face showing delight, but she didn't speak to her mothers. Instead, she went straight to her seat, sat down cross-legged, and began meditating. She needed to seize this moment to ponder on her newfound understanding. When she began drawing the mysterious circles of heaven, the immense pressure from the opponent had borne down entirely upon the Azura Shadow Sword. The mysterious circles of heaven felt that massive weight, so great that even the Azura Shadow Sword trembled slightly under it. It was under this pressure that Mei Gongzi instinctively guided her spatial power. Unexpectedly, with the Azura Shadow Sword as a conduit and her celestial dance as the source of the movement, things flowed naturally. The mysterious circles of heaven didn't just neutralize the opponent's force, it incorporated the traits of Star Shift, and they complemented each other to dissolve the attack and borrow its strength. The pressure born from borrowing that power was largely dispelled by the Azura sword. In the next instant, her sword had already slashed forth smoothly. That was Mei Gongxi's most perfect strike ever. At that moment, it was as if a new door had opened for her. The three bloodlines within her body seemed to produce a strange fusion centered on the Azura sword. The feeling was truly unique. Although everything was flowing together and intermingling, her mind was utterly clear. At the same time, she sensed her bloodlines merging, and even vaguely felt the rejection of the world. Tang San had once described this sensation to her. It was the natural repulsion of the plane when a transcendent bloodline was born. And in addition to that, she had glimpsed another world, the world of emperors. Luo Qingzhu and Su Qin saw Mei Gongxi sitting cross-legged in meditation. Unsure whether it was from overexertion or enlightenment, they did not disturb her but stood guard at her side. Both mothers' faces were filled with pride and excitement. Mei Gongxi had defeated Lan Maqian, who was not only a seeded contestant but one of the top seeds. With 3 wins from 3 matches, she now had 6 points. And unlike the points Tang San had gained by clever means, Mei Gongxi had earned hers in hard battles, step by step, breaking through every barrier in front of her. Outside, the arena was being repaired, but the cheers of the crowd rose in wave after wave, all for Mei Gongxi. 3 victories each over a powerful opponent. Mei Gongxi had won the audience's recognition with her strength. At this moment, the emperors too were stirred. Does anyone know where Kali City Lord's sword came from? The celestial fox demon emperor's voice sounded in the minds of the other emperors. Before the others could answer, the white tiger demon emperor cut in. Celestial fox, don't tell me you want to ban this divine item too? When Tang San's scourge dragon was prohibited, the white tiger demon emperor was quite displeased. He was the only one who knew how much the scourge dragon helped conceal Tang San's identity. Now that the celestial fox demon emperor was targeting Mei Gongxi, he couldn't hold his tongue, and luckily, this time he didn't have to hold it. She was his granddaughter, and he was openly favoring her. The celestial fox demon emperor said, "That's not what I meant. I'm just curious. This divine items might is beyond anything I've seen. Back during the ancestral court elite competition, she did use it once, but it seemed to only manifest a single blade of sword intent. Now that sword intent has become a physical, immensely powerful divine item. I'm just curious. White Tiger, perhaps you could enlighten me." White Tiger Demon Emperor said, "I don't know where it came from either, but you can treat it as a gift from me." These words were a clear declaration. Don't even think about targeting my granddaughter. Hey, if push comes to shove, I can reveal that she's my daughter and tell them I gave it to her. Another emperor whispered in private to the White Tiger Demon Emperor. It was of course the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor. The White Tiger Demon Emperor's mouth twitched. You gave it to her? What nonsense. Even assuming people would ignore the fact that she's your daughter, do you think anyone would believe you had something like that? But seeing the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor's obvious love for his daughter, he let it slide without mocking him. He simply gave a reminder that some secrets had to be kept secret for as long as possible. The Sword Saint Demon Emperor chimed in an unusual display of enthusiasm. That divine sword is the most remarkable I've seen. It contains the power of justice and judgment, able to restrain all that is dark and evil. Its might is immense, and its suppression of energy with negative attributes must be exceptionally strong. Of anyone alive, he was the most devoted to the sword. His words only confirmed the sword's extraordinary nature. Incredibly sharp and moreover, it seems to me like its energy has an indestructible trait to it. It's practically inexhaustible, the Endless Nymph Emperor added. As the one who had personally suffered from it, it too spoke up, and who was more qualified to talk about inexhaustible things. The other emperors mostly listened in silence, but there was no doubt that this divine sword had entered their notice. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor said, "With such a divine sword, this tournament's result will truly be well deserved." The emperors could clearly see that based on Mei Gongxi's performance so far, Especially in defeating Lan Maqian with her dual divine swords, she was practically guaranteed to enter the finals. While this discussion was ongoing, Tang San didn't linger. With Mei Gongzi's match done, he planned to leave. Otherwise, more clans would surely come to curry favor, and he preferred to avoid the trouble. After bidding farewell to Ning Chanen, who remained outside the rest area to watch the match between Donghua and Lu Fuyao, Tang San quietly left with the elders of the Blue Gold Tree clan, returning to the White Tiger Hotel. To Tang San, the next match was far more crucial. He would face an opponent from the second bracket, and without the power of the Scourge Dragon to rely upon, to secure advancement he still needed one more win. In truth, Tang San wasn't aiming for just advancement. He had decided that he must take first place. He had to rank first in the semi-finals. The rules for the final stage differed from the semi-finals. If Mei Gongzi advanced with a lower rank or failed to emerge from the semi-finals at all, then Tang San's own ranking wouldn't matter much. But if Mei Gongzi advanced with the top rank, which was now entirely possible, then Tang San too would need to secure the top spot to ensure they wouldn't meet in the first round of the finals. Of course, they would inevitably meet in the finals as well, but the earlier they met, the more difficult it would be for Tang San to judge whether he should win or lose. After all, the aim was for both of them to be in the final three, and things had to be calculated accordingly. This resolve to take first place had only just crystallized for Tang San. Mei Gongzi's recent breakthrough meant she would surely deliver excellent performances in the semi-finals and the finals. Tang San already had 5 wins. To claim first place, he would need at least 2 more victories, and he had to ensure that no other contestant achieved a perfect 7-win record. That latter point shouldn't be an issue. Radiant Dragon King Suan Yu had already lost to him once and would surely fight tooth and nail in his remaining matches. Other contestants would find it difficult to defeat Suan Yu. Thus, Tang San needed to win 2 more matches without relying on the Scourge Dragon. He would have to reveal some more of his abilities, and that would take some more calculations. Back at the White Tiger Grand Hotel, he began preparing for the next match. He had to review everything he had going for him and consider the most optimal use of his abilities. Thus, he did not waste even a moment and entered meditation at once. The third day of the round-robin concluded. One of the key matchups was the clash between sky-splitting City Lord Donghua and Lu Fuyao. Both had suffered 2 defeats before this match, and could no longer afford to lose. The battle was fierce, with Donghua displaying unprecedented strength to ultimately overpower Lu Fuyao and earn his first victory. This effectively eliminated Lu Fuyao from the semi-finals, reducing the dragon's numbers. However, the dragon race's strength still showed through in the second bracket. The Misfortune Pearl finally appeared in battle, wielded by the Tenebrous Dragon King. As it turned out, the Misfortune Pearl, auctioned off outside the VIP pavilions, had ended up in the hands of the Tenebrous Dragon lineage. When activated, the Misfortune Pearl devoured the opponent's fortune, enabling the Tenebrous Dragon King to claim victory over a powerful adversary. The emergence of the Misfortune Pearl drew the attention of nearly everyone. The dragons were formidable to begin with. This heir of the only Dragon Emperor, armed with the Tenebrous Dragon clan's legacy divine item and the Misfortune Pearl, instantly became a favorite among the male contestants. This outcome was clearly anticipated by those with foresight. Thus, in the second bracket, a contestant with 3 wins from 3 matches had emerged, the Tenebrous Dragon King, and he would be Tang San's next opponent. According to the tournament rules, the strongest from the first bracket would face the strongest from the second bracket in the next round. And clearly, this opponent would not surrender like his fellow dragons. Tang San learned this news that evening. The Tenebrous Dragon King? The Misfortune Pearl? Nice. The corners of Tang San's lips curved in a sly smile. Now things were getting interesting. His preparations would need to shift slightly. If his opponent didn't use the Misfortune Pearl, it could be a bit troublesome. But if the opponent did use it, well, that would be another story entirely. That night, Tang San went to the dining hall again, hoping to catch sight of Mei Gongzi and gauge how her insights from that day had settled. Unfortunately, Mei Gongzi didn't appear. It seemed she'd chosen to dine in her quarters. Tang San felt a bit helpless but refrained from contacting Mei Gongzi at this time. After 3 rounds of the semi-finals, the first stage was essentially complete. The rankings were starting to become clear. Among the male contestants, Tang San proudly sat atop the leaderboard with 5 wins and 10 points. Undisputed first place, even though he had truly fought only one match. Behind him was Tenebrous Dragon King Li Xiaoping, the one who had used the Misfortune Pearl the day before. The Tenebrous Dragon lineage had clearly spared no expense for this battle for the throne. The Misfortune Pearl's auction price was well known. Third place belonged to Radiant Dragon King Suan Yu. Only the top 3 in the round-robin could advance to the finals. So for now, the only ones with a shot at advancement were these 3. Ning Chunen also had 2 victories, ranking just behind Suan Yu. The other 2 contestants from the second bracket were strong, but they had both fallen to these 3. For Tang San, the most crucial task was to secure the next victory. After that, he would face Ning Chunen. If he could defeat both Tenebrous Dragon King Li Xiaoping and Ning Chunen, his top spot in the round-robin would be secure. Even if he skipped the last 2 matches, it wouldn't matter. In fact, if he beat Li Xiaoping today, he'd at least lock in a top 2 finish. After all, Li Xiaoping and Suan Yu hadn't faced each other yet. Thus, today's battle was of paramount importance. When Tang San arrived at his pavilion, he immediately saw Ning Chunen waiting nearby. Their pavilions were adjacent, so that came as no surprise. Seeing Tang San arrive, Ning Chunen waved and said, "Brother Jin, you're here. You'll need to be careful today." Tang San smiled slightly. "Greetings, Brother Ning. Any advice for me?" Ning Chunen shrugged and said gravely, "Li Xiaoping is very difficult to handle. That Misfortune Pearl is extremely troublesome. You must be cautious." Tang San blinked, suddenly realizing something from the match records, and blurted out, "You lost to him yesterday?"
Ning Chunen gave a wry smile.
"Who else would it be?" Tang San blinked. "Right. I don't know what I expected." Indeed, in the second bracket, only Li Xiaoping and Ning Chunen had 2 wins apiece before. With Li Xiaoping now at 3 wins and Ning Chunen at 2 wins and 1 loss, it was obvious who had been struck by misfortune the day before. Ning Chunen said, "It took quite a bit of effort from my family to dispel that misfortune after the match. The Celestial Fox clan refuses to intervene during the battle for the throne, since they are connected to the Misfortune Pearl, and they want to ensure its utility. That pearl's power is truly troublesome. Even now, the misfortune hasn't been entirely removed. I'll have to wait until after the tournament to ask the Celestial Fox clan for help." Tang San nodded. "It really is troublesome. The misfortune on that pearl is potent. You should definitely have it dispelled as soon as possible. The longer it lingers, the harder it will be to remove." Ning Chunen looked at Tang San in surprise. "Brother Jin, are you familiar with the power of fortune?" Tang San smiled. "Life energy and fortune are naturally connected. The ancestral tree commands the source of life on this plane, so naturally it possesses great fortune. Since I inherited its legacy, I understand a bit of such matters, that's all." Ning Chunen nodded and said, "That Li Xiaoping is very powerful in his own right. Even without the pearl, he's not that far off from Suan Yu. Be careful." 0. Tang San inclined his head slightly. Ning Chunen didn't need to elaborate. He already understood why the Tenebrous Dragon lineage had paid a hefty price for the Misfortune Pearl. The primary aim was surely to target the Radiant Dragon representative. This was about the battle for Crystal City .0. Within the dragon race, Radiant Dragon King Suan Yu had more internal support. But on the Demon Continent, strength reigned supreme. If Li Xiaoping defeated Suan Yu, the latter would have no chance of becoming Crystal City's master. At the same time, if the Tenebrous Dragon lineage seized Crystal City, it would mean enormous gains for the Tenebrous Demon Emperor. Crystal City was the wealthiest main city, once the domain of the Crystal Demon Emperor, and the heart of the dragon race. Securing it would raise the Tenebrous Demon Emperor standing within the dragons to rival that of the Crystal Demon Emperor in her heyday. 0. Suan Yu held the Light Sprite. Li Xiaoping had the Misfortune Pearl. Both sides were determined to give their all in the struggle for control over the dragon race and Crystal City. 0. But Suan Yu and Li Xiaoping were set to face off in the next round. Right now it was Tang San's turn. 0. If push comes to shove, just surrender. You have enough wins already. It'll be easier to find another opportunity later. Ning Chunen advised. 0. Tang San gave a bitter smile. Will it really be easier later? My next opponent is you, and after that the Scorching King. Neither of you is easy to deal with. I'll do my best. 0. Among the male nymph contestants, aside from Tang San, only the Scorching King had advanced. His record in the first 3 matches was 1 win and 2 losses. Not great at all. Strangely, despite acquiring the undying golden body at the grand auction, he hadn't used it for reasons unknown. He had lost to both Li Xiaoping and Ning Chenin. 0. In any case, stay cautious. The misfortune pearl is really hard to handle. The impact is huge, Ning Chenin reminded him once more. 0. By now, the stands were packed to capacity, and the emperors had all taken their seats. 0. Since Tang San was the top-ranked male contestant from the first bracket and was slated for the first match of the day against the top-ranked from the second bracket, he didn't bother entering his pavilion. He simply waited quietly outside, in the common rest area. 0. By this time, Mei Gongzi had also arrived. She was the last contestant to show up today. Her opponent would be formidable as well. The top female contestant from the second female bracket. 0. Today's matches would reveal the most probable candidates for first place in each group. 0. Still, few believed Tang San could secure first place in the group anymore. Despite his 5 victories without the Scourge Dragon's aid, how could he stand against so many powerful foes? But even so, 5 wins already gave him a real shot at the top 3. 0. The second stage of the semi-finals begins now. First match. The top male contestant of each bracket. Contestants, take the platform. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's voice rang out from halfway up Council Mountain. 0. Under countless gazes, Tang San leapt lightly into the arena. The cheers for the Amethystan warrior instantly resounded through the stands. Despite Tenebrous Dragon King Li Xiaoping wielding the mighty Misfortune Pearl, his reputation and popularity couldn't remotely match Tang San's. 0. Since Tang San had been barred from using the Scourge Dragon, public opinion had been in an uproar. The authorities at the ancestral court had forcibly suppressed the outcry, but the discontent of the crowd lingered. After all, even mighty emperors couldn't defy the will of the masses forever. At this moment, each cheer for Tang San was as much a show of support as it was a protest against the perceived injustice. A way to vent their dissatisfaction. 0. On the opposite side of the arena, a figure rose into the air and landed. Li Xiaoping, Tenebrous Dragon King, Black Dragon City Lord, and heir to the Tenebrous Demon Emperor. 0. Li Xiaoping appeared as a middle-aged man. He was not all that handsome, but he sported a stern, unyielding presence. His short black hair bristled like steel needles, his gaze was resolute, and his divine sense rock-solid. His whole being radiated a domineering aura. 0. Tang San hadn't paid him much attention before. After his and Mei Gongzi's matches, he'd always left quickly. But now, facing him directly, Tang San couldn't help but nod inwardly in recognition. 0. The Tenebrous Demon Emperor was one of the first emperors Tang San had clashed with. Among the emperors, his strength ranked toward the lower end. Tang San even believed that the Sword Saint Demon Emperor now surpassed him. In the past, Tang San had once forcefully burned his own divine sense to temporarily lock down the Tenebrous Demon Emperor, compelling him to compromise so that Mei Gongzi could gain his support during her appointment. It wasn't that the Tenebrous Demon Emperor lacked bloodline power. Rather, he lacked resolve. It was precisely because of this flaw that, even though his dragon bloodline and talent were both formidable, and the darkness element was among the most powerful, his ranking among the emperors was nothing to write home about. 0. But seeing Tenebrous Dragon King Li Xiaoping now, Tang San had to reevaluate the Tenebrous Demon Emperor. The man himself wasn't all that, but he had chosen a fine successor. Li Xiaoping's unshakable determination clearly compensated for his master's shortcomings. This choice reflected the Tenebrous Demon Emperor's own awareness of his failings. Clearly, a decision made after bitter reflection. 0. The Misfortune Pearl carried risks of backlash, and those without firm resolve were most vulnerable to it. No wonder the Tenebrous Demon Emperor had entrusted it to Li Xiaoping. The latter's inner fortitude was quite sufficient. With the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's protective talisman as well, Li Xiaoping wouldn't suffer backlash in the short term. 0. The referee descended, and it was none other than the Sunborn Nymph Emperor. Since this was a clash between the highest-ranked contestants, the referee was an absolute powerhouse. 0. Tang San didn't know if Sunborn had volunteered to oversee the match in order to protect him, or had simply been appointed to the role, but now wasn't the time for speculation. He simply joined Li Xiaoping in bowing respectfully to the referee. 0. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor glanced at them both and said coolly, "Prepare yourselves." 0. Li Xiaoping bowed once more. In the next instant, a strange energy pulsed from him, and the spectral misfortune pearl emerged from his mouth. 0. The pearl gleamed with a deep shifting light, sometimes dark blue, sometimes black, its hues changing subtly. 0. Li Xiaoping's entire body was then covered in scales, which formed a black armor. His right hand gripped a jet-black warblade, clearly a divine item of great power. 0. A deep purple aura spread outward from his feet, casting half the arena into darkness. A low dragon's roar echoed as the shadow of a massive black dragon writhed behind him. 0. He was going all out. 0. Li Xiaoping didn't underestimate Tang San just because he had lost the Scourge Dragon. From the start, he was unleashing his full strength. 0. Seeing this, Tang San sighed softly. His right hand grasped at the air, and the radiant dragon spear appeared in his palm. Infused with life energy, the spear blazed with brilliant light, bathing him in a golden glow that imparted a hint of sacredness. 0. He certainly looked dazzling, but in terms of presence, he was clearly outmatched by Li Xiaoping. 0. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor frowned slightly at the sight of Tang San. Was this really all he had left? 0. Indeed, he had personally asked to officiate this match. He wanted to see how Tang San would face a powerful foe without the Scourge Dragon. Somehow, he still felt that this crafty young man might create another miracle. This clever fellow always seemed to do the impossible. 0. But with the way Tang San looked now, simply holding the radiant dragon spear, it clearly gave the impression that he had run out of options. This left the Sunborn Nymph Emperor disappointed, but also a bit suspicious. Was he truly out of tricks? 0. Are you ready? The Sunborn Nymph Emperor asked once more. 0. Li Xiaoping nodded, and on the other side, Tang San also nodded, and even gave the Sunborn Nymph Emperor a grin. 0. Naturally, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor couldn't show any favoritism and thus announced the start of the battle. 0. The energy that separated the two sides vanished in an instant, and the Sunborn Nymph Emperor transformed into a beam of light and rose into the sky. 0. Li Xiaoping wasted no time and immediately activated the misfortune pearl before him. He had no intention of currying favor with the Blue Gold Tree clan. In fact, the Tenebrous Dragon clan had no particular need for the kind of life energy Blue Gold Trees provided. They cultivated the path of darkness and were more interested in depriving others of life than in nurturing it. 0. The misfortune pearl instantly emitted a deep blue glow that enveloped Tang San. The power of misfortune was formless and intangible. It was neither a physical nor an energy attack, and thus it was unavoidable. This was the most terrifying aspect of the misfortune pearl. 0. Just then, Tang San raised the radiant dragon spear high. The tip pointed to the sky. At that instant, the 8 spikes on his back stood erect, and the blue-golden radiance around him erupted with tremendous power. A powerful sense of holiness emanated from him. 0. From beneath his feet, blue vines pierced through the ground and rooted themselves into the ground, and then life energy erupted like a geyser. 0. A massive blue-gold silhouette emerged behind him. A sense of ancient majesty accompanied its appearance. Unlike the blue-gold tree form Tang San had displayed before, this figure soared nearly 1,000 meters tall, its towering presence even surpassing that of Council Mountain. 0. The ancestral tree? The emperors halfway up Council Mountain couldn't remain seated. They immediately left their rest chambers and hovered in the air. 0. That ancient boundless life aura. Wasn't it the ancestral tree? 0. At this moment, no one felt it more deeply than the Adamant Nymph clan. The great demon king representing them had personally witnessed the ancestral tree annihilate the Adamant Nymph Emperor. So when the ancestral tree's aura appeared again, its whole body shivered uncontrollably. 0. Tang San had once summoned the ancestral tree's manifestation in Adamant City, destroying the Adamant Nymph Emperor. When the Soul Capturer Nymph Emperor returned to the ancestral court afterward, he reported that the strength Tang San could draw from the ancestral tree was likely limited by distance. And indeed, as if to confirm this judgment, Tang San had never summoned the manifestation since then. 0. Yet now, although the form of the ancestral tree was so faint it couldn't be clearly seen, its aura was unmistakably real. 0. He could summon the ancestral tree's essence, even in the ancestral court? How could the emperors not be astonished? 0. But in the next moment, they sensed that this ancient, pure, and vast life energy wasn't pouring into the manifestation to make it more clear, and neither was it radiating outward. Instead, it surged madly toward the radiant dragon spear in Tang San's hand. 0. In an instant, the radiant dragon spear burst out with unprecedented brilliance. Radiant golden light exploded outward, accompanied by a resounding dragon's roar. A white dragon formed instantly within that light, its presence exuding unmatched holiness and dazzling brilliance. 0. What was the core of the demon continent's power? It was bloodline power, the bloodline of the ancestral demons and ancestral nymphs. And what was the root of bloodline power? Life itself. 0. At the same time, the light element was the purest and most sacred of elements in any plane. Light was, after all, the manifestation of all that was holy. 0. So what would happen if these two pure fundamental forces happened to merge? They would become holy energy. 1. The ancestral tree controlled the very source of all life in this realm. Even a wisp of its essence, when infused into the radiant dragon spear and combined with its radiance, turned the spear into something else entirely. The divine item was undergoing ascension, and though the white dragon was only a projection, the holy aura it radiated was immense. 0. Why hadn't Tang San done this during preparation? The reason was simple. What if he unleashed holy energy early, and it scared Li Xiaoping into not using the misfortune pearl? No, that could not happen. 2. This holy dragon summon, though brilliant and overwhelming, had little combat power. It was mostly for display, a dazzling but mostly useless projection. If his opponent had been someone else, say Ning Chenen, they might have just charged in and dispersed the holy dragon projection with brute force. 0. But Li Xiaoping was a different case. 0. The misfortune pearl contained misfortune, and tremendously potent one at that. But even a pervasive energy like misfortune had its limits. Could mortal misfortune threaten a holy being? What a joke. 0. So, just as the misfortune pearl's power descended on Tang San, he summoned the holy dragon. It let out a thunderous roar, and then the power of misfortune rebounded. Instantly. 0. In terms of tier, the radiant dragon spear couldn't match the misfortune pearl. But with the infusion of life energy from the ancestral tree's projection and the transformation it had undergone, it was an entirely different matter. 0. In a flash, the misfortune pearl's energy flow reversed and struck Li Xiaoping himself. He felt as though his entire body and consciousness were warping. The misfortune within the pearl surged uncontrollably toward him. 0. The protective charm the celestial fox demon emperor had gifted him alongside the pearl shattered instantly. Even worse, that holy energy, on a level far beyond pure light element energy, swept down in full force. 0. Light repels darkness. This is a fundamental law. The relationship between light and darkness is even more antagonistic than fire and water. And the holy energy here, in a sense, was a higher level form of light. With the ancestral tree's life energy fueling the light, the resulting holy power instantly cleansed the dark domain Li Xiaoping had activated. Let alone that, even his black scale armor began to turn white under the holy light. 0. It was a complete elemental suppression. 0. Against Donghua, Tang San had displayed the fusion of life and annihilation. This time he used an equally refined method, fusing life and light. It wasn't as destructive, but it was far more stable, and it perfectly countered both misfortune and darkness. 0. Even the audience forgot to cheer. They now held their breath as they watched. 0. In the sky, the giant white dragon roared again and again. Across from it, darkness was melting away like snow under the sun. 0. Li Xiaoping's face twisted as he staggered backward. The misfortune pearl in front of him flickered unsteadily, and its misfortune was now invading his own body. 0. Brother Celestial Fox, he withdraws from the tournament. Please help him. 0. The tenebrous demon emperor finally couldn't hold back. 0. He was utterly stunned. He had never imagined such an outcome. Not only had the misfortune pearl failed to bring victory, but it had become a weapon that turned against its own master. 0. With misfortune raining down and darkness overwhelmed by holy energy, Li Xiaoping was in critical condition. Even his demonic weapon was shaking violently. His pupils had turned blood red, and his sea of consciousness was beginning to collapse. 0. Suddenly there was a flash of light. White brilliance filled the sky. A colossal nine-tailed celestial fox soared into the air, hovering in the sky. Each of its immense tails stretched over 1,000 meters long. In that instant, a powerful burst of fortune energy erupted around it. 0. The sacred aura below was immediately drawn upward, merging with that overwhelming fortune energy. The two energies complemented each other, creating a perfect harmony. 0. Around the nine-tailed celestial fox, curtains of golden radiance began to form, adding a divine aura to its already awe-inspiring presence. 0. As the sacred power was drawn away, a black silhouette descended from the sky, landing beside the tenebrous Dragon King. A dense black aura instantly enveloped him, as well as the misfortune pearl. 0. You're crossing the line here. This is still a match, remember? I'm the referee. A calm voice rang out. In the next moment, the entire sky brightened. A blazing sun seemed to descend over the ancestral court, and the surrounding temperature soared rapidly. The protective barrier around the arena shattered instantly. 0. Calm down, brother Sunborn, said the nine-tailed celestial fox, swinging its enormous tails. Gentle white light, mingled with golden radiance, cascaded down from the heavens and enveloped Tang San. Immediately, golden light surrounded him, his fortune soared, and the sacred aura around him solidified like never before, coating his entire body in gold. 0. The radiant sunlight receded, and people could see that, at some point, the sun-born nymph emperor had appeared above Tang San. The colossal celestial fox also shrank in size and floated over to the other side, where darkness still loomed. 0. Its 9 tails flicked as if striking some pesky flies, then it opened its mouth to inhale. The unstable misfortune pearl flew in, along with a surge of misfortune energy, the very same misfortune that had been stuffed into Li Xiaoping. All of it was absorbed by the celestial fox demon emperor. 0. Tang San stood still with his eyes closed, physically preventing himself from laughing out loud as he sensed the holy aura around him. 0. What an absolute blessing. 0. He had used the ancestral tree's imprint to channel a massive amount of life energy into the radiant dragon spear, fully unleashing its spirit into the form of a holy dragon. But in truth, that artifact couldn't sustain such holy power. Once the technique was used, the spear would shatter and the dragon spirit would dissipate. 0. Yet, to appease the sun-born nymph emperor's wrath, the celestial fox demon emperor had used his overwhelming fortune control to stabilize the holy energy Tang San had unleashed. It reversed and condensed the energy, forcibly consolidating the radiant dragon spear's spirit into a proper form. The cost for the celestial fox demon emperor was immense, but for Tang San it was a pure windfall. He was baptized in holy power, his cultivation rose, and the spear didn't just survive, it evolved. 0. I suppose we have to call it the Holy Dragon Spear now. 0. The most significant benefit? The original Radiant Dragon Spear couldn't withstand the projection of the Sea God Trident, but the new and improved Holy Dragon Spear was a different matter altogether. That meant his Sea God Trident could soon manifest physically, just like Mei Gongzi's Azura Sword. 0. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor had absolutely no idea how massive a benefit he had just brought Tang San. No, forget about him, even Tang San himself was shocked. 0. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor's expression remained cold as he silently stared across the field. 0. Li Xiaoping's face twisted in agony. He no longer cared about the battle for the throne. The misfortune energy had tainted even his darkness energy, and his demonic weapon was backlashing fiercely. No matter how strong-willed he was suffering immense torment. 0. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor had forcibly taken control of the Misfortune Pearl and reversed the tremendous flow of energy. If not, Li Xiaoping's sea of consciousness might have been destroyed. That was why the Tenebrous Demon Emperor had begged the Celestial Fox to intervene. Only he could prevent catastrophe. If the pearl had exploded, it wouldn't have just killed Li Xiaoping. It would have broken through the barrier and unleashed Emperor-level misfortune across the entire ancestral court. 0. And so, even knowing it would incur the Sunborn's displeasure, Celestial Fox had still acted immediately. Li Xiaoping's life wasn't the priority, but containing the threat of the misfortune pearl most certainly was. 0. Tang San, meanwhile, was no longer paying attention to Li Xiaoping. From the moment Celestial Fox stepped in, the match was over. His focus was on the Holy Dragon Spear in his hand. The spear had turned white just a few moments back, but now it had turned golden once more. It was surrounded by an orange-gold aura that continuously nourished the weapon. With the Celestial Fox's power forcing it back, all the holy energy Tang San had blasted out of the spear had been condensed again and now enveloped both Tang San and the spear. 0. This holy energy not only refined Tang San's body and various bloodline imprints, it also continued to nourish the holy dragon spear, helping it perfect its metamorphosis. 0. The misfortune energy from the pearl gradually dissipated, and Li Xiaoping's condition stabilized. 0. The tenebrous demon emperor had appeared beside him. With a deep bow to the Sunborn Nymph Emperor and a face full of apology, he said, "Your Majesty Sunborn, this was a sudden emergency. I was the one who asked Brother Celestial Fox to intervene. The misfortune backlash could have utterly destroyed Xiaoping, and he is my true heir. I couldn't just watch him die. But it's true we violated the rules. From this point forward, he will withdraw from the battle for the throne." 0. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor said nothing, but his icy gaze stayed locked on the tenebrous demon emperor. His silence only intensified the pressure on the other emperors present, especially those from the Empyrean Dominion. 0. Some things didn't need to be said aloud. If Li Xiaoping feared misfortune backlash, then what about Jean Miaolin, who had suffered the same attack? You know the misfortune pearl is such a tyrannical divine item, and you still want to use it, but you're not willing to accept the consequences? What kind of logic is that? 0. A flash of light, and the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor descended from the sky. He landed in front of the Sunborn Nymph Emperor and looked toward Tang San, who was still nourishing his holy dragon spear. He said solemnly, "This incident happened too quickly. I had to take action to stop the misfortune pearl from exploding. If it had gone off, the ancestral court would have suffered greatly. Clan leader Jean, I hope you understand. The court will give you a proper explanation for this." 0. Tang San, still focused on his spear, smiled and responded respectfully, "Your Majesty is too kind. I trust that your decisions are always just. I'll be more cautious in the future and won't use this power again." 11. Upon hearing this, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor's lips twitched ever so slightly, disrupting the icy composure of his face. 0. This was what it meant to kill someone with kindness. 0. No one had said Tang San couldn't use holy power. His use of it hadn't unfairly affected the match at all. Yet here he was, voluntarily stating he wouldn't use it again. Anyone with half a brain would instantly recall how he had also voluntarily promised not to use the Scourge Dragon earlier. How could people not read between the lines? 0. Despite the seemingly clever tricks he employed to win his matches, it was now abundantly clear. The ancestral court had repeatedly interfered against him. Was that because of the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor? That subtle implication effectively put Celestial Fox on the roasting spit. At the same time, it indirectly voiced his own dissatisfaction. 1. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor gave Tang San a long, thoughtful look before smiling and saying, "Clan leader Jean, you've misunderstood me. That wasn't my intention at all. This holy energy of yours appeared very suddenly, but also very timely. It's a unique attribute that no known race currently possesses. It has tremendous potential for purifying evil and misfortune. Rather than restricting its use, we should be promoting it. In the future, it will greatly benefit the ancestral court and even the entire continent. If you research this holy attribute and produce results, that will be a merit to this generation and a legacy for the future. The ancestral court will surely reward you. Brother Sunborn, since Li Xiaoping has withdrawn from the tournament, I'll have to trouble you to announce the result of this match." 0. Barely preventing himself from raising an eyebrow at the ever-smooth Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor replied plainly, "Jean Miaolin wins." 0. The match had ended, but the arena erupted into chatter. Was this unprecedented holy energy yet another case of unfair bias against the Amethystan warrior? 0. More importantly, he had actually defeated the fan favorite Li Xiaoping. and even caused a backlash from the misfortune pearl, which had been acquired at great cost. Most importantly, it turned out that Jean Mirolan actually could harness the power of the ancestral tree even here, and he had been able to use it to win without using the Scourge Dragon. Who could still underestimate this clan leader of the Blue Gold Tree clan? Just how many strategies had he revealed in this tournament already? 0. Practically every item he had purchased in the auction had been used in combat, and apart from the Sword Saint Demon Emperor statue, which was a one-of-a-kind treasure, and the Scourge Dragon, which was too dangerous, everything else could just as well appear again. His rich life energy had empowered both the Scourge Dragon and Radiant Dragon Spear to shine in his hands, steadily defeating his opponents through suppression. 0. Today's battle had even provoked a clash among emperors. Everyone could see the Sunborn Nymph Emperor's displeasure. There were already few nymphs among the male contestants, and the Scorching King had lost twice. While Jean Mirolan seemed to advance by luck alone, he had nevertheless advanced, and when they'd forbid him from using the Scourge Dragon, that was expected to greatly impact his performance in the battle for the throne. Now the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor had directly intervened. Of course the Nymph Emperors would be outraged. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor had nearly snapped at his demon peer. Though he held back, his position was clear. That made Jean Miaolin's status in the competition even more sensitive. 0. The audience also suddenly realized something else. The Blue Gold Tree clan leader, once thought the weakest in the round robin, had become the first to advance to the finals. 0. Indeed, Tang San had officially advanced. 0. With 6 wins and 12 points, he was at least tied for first place among the male competitors, if not the outright winner. Since every other contestant had already suffered at least one defeat, even if Tang San lost all remaining matches, his standing was secure. 0. Who would have imagined before the semi-finals began that someone supposedly so weak could perform? It seemed like luck, like he was taking shortcuts, but the fact remained. He had reached the finals. 0. And then came a third realization. The Amethystan warrior was truly in contention for an emperor's seat. Being one of 6 gave him a lot better chances than being one of over 140. On paper at least there was a 50-50 chance for him to become one of the final 3.0. Before the semi-finals started, nobody had faith in him. But as matches progressed, so did his reputation, and now people were beginning to believe he might actually work another miracle. Who could say he couldn't win again in the finals? And the best part about him was that no one ever knew what trick he might pull next. Despite facing the strongest opponents of his generation, absolute powerhouses beneath the emperor level, he always seemed to outwit them. Aside from his straightforward battle against Donghua, where he used the Scourge Dragon in a head-on clash, all his other victories had either involved his opponent surrendering or clever tactics. And interestingly enough, even in the matches where his opponent surrendered outright, no 2 wins looked the same. 0. For the moment, Tang San's popularity soared. His influence spread wider, and more spectators began to admire his unpredictability. After all, 2 titanic opponents confronting each other in a brute force fight was definitely fun to watch, but they just discovered something even more exciting. Trying to guess what crazy move this presumably weak Blue Gold Tree would make next. What miracle would he create in the next match? 0. Tang San was personally escorted out of the arena by the Sunborn Nymph Emperor. 0. Ning Chenen was in the common rest area, waiting for Tang San, his expression shifting through a kaleidoscope of emotions. 0. I say, Brother Jean, I never want to face you in a match again. I used to think my luck was terrible because I hadn't drawn you in the previous rounds, but now I realize that not drawing you was the best luck I've ever had. You've really been hiding your strength. 0. Tang San looked at him innocently. Eh? What are you talking about? What did I hide? 0. You. Wait, he's right. What did he hide? 0. Every artifact Jean Mirolan had used in the tournament had been bought at the mega auction, and was public knowledge. Today's use of the ancestral tree's power? That had been demonstrated before in Adamant City. Not to mention, all the ancestral tree did was give him pure life energy. It didn't directly participate in combat. 0. Ning Chenen only had to think for a moment to realize his interlocutor's words made perfect sense. Everything he'd used was something people should have been aware of. 0. As he looked at Tang San, Ning Chenen's gaze grew more complicated. Reviewing Tang San's performance from the start of the battle for the throne, it was clear. This man had steadily risen from being completely underestimated to becoming a true contender. He had nearly sparked a public clash between emperors. Who dared underestimate him anymore? He had reached first place, and could very well score even more points in the coming matches. 0. Brother Ning, Tang San waved a hand in front of him. 0. Ning Chenen finally snapped back to reality. Apologies, Brother Jean. I was lost in thought. Now that I think about your matches, I have to say your evolution is really awe-inspiring. 0. Tang San chuckled. Nothing awe-inspiring, I just make good use of the things I bought these days. But speaking of that, Brother Ning, how about we make a deal? 0. Ning Chenen blinked. What kind of deal? 0. Tang San said with a warm smile. You help me secure a promise from the Golden Mammoth Demon Emperor, and I'll concede our match. I won't fight you. 0.
Ning Chenen was stunned.
Barely a week ago, he wouldn't have cared in the slightest about such a proposal. He had been confident in his victory. But now, Tang San had pulled off too many miracles. Even if Ning still believed in himself, who could say Tang San wouldn't surprise them again? 0. Li Xiaoping's elimination actually hurt Ning Chenen's chances. He had lost to Li Xiaoping, while the other three in the first bracket, who had yet to fight him, had effectively gained a free win, making the finals had suddenly become much harder. If he could secure a win against Tang San, his chances would stay alive. Otherwise, his path to the finals would be extremely slim. 0. What kind of promise do you want, Brother Jean? Asked Ning Chenen. 0. A simple one. If I ever need support for my ascension to Emperor, I hope that His Majesty can do that for me. 0.
Ning Chenen essaye Liep.
You think you can place in the top 3 in this battle for the throne? 0. Tang San shrugged. I'll just do my best. And besides, this isn't my only chance. I'm just preparing ahead of time. 0. Ning Chenen took a deep breath and said, That's not something I can decide on my own. I'll have to ask first. 0. Norus. Just give me an answer before our match begins. 0. Ning Chenen nadid. Alright, I'll give you a heads up once I talk to him. 0. In truth, Tang San had no intention of continuing in the remaining round-robin matches. As the saying goes, the more you do, the more mistakes you make. The best way to avoid trouble was to participate in as few battles as possible, and stop exposing his abilities in front of others. 6 wins were already more than enough. 2. Of course, Ning Chenen had no way of knowing that, and if Tang San had an opportunity to grab some profit, well, who was he to let it slide? 0. The matches continued. 0. Tang San's attention had already shifted back to the competition arena, because it was once again Mei Gongzi's turn to fight. And this battle was extremely important for her. If she won this match, she would have 4 victories, and her opponent today was the top contender from the second bracket, also with 3 wins. 0. There were 5 female contestants in the second bracket, and matches had been determined by drawing lots, meaning someone always had a bye. Since only 3 rounds had passed, there were still contestants who had only fought twice. 0. Mei Gongzi's opponent today could very well be the strongest she'd face in the round-robin stage, maybe even stronger than Lan Maqian. At the same time, winning this match would put her in a comfortable lead. If she could defeat this next opponent, the others wouldn't pose much of a problem to her. 0. Mei Gongzi and her opponent were already standing on the battle platform. Since Tang San's match with Li Xiaoping hadn't caused physical damage to the arena, the matches could move on straight away. 0. A new referee presided over this match. Perhaps it was due to the Sunborn Nymph Emperor being pissed and taking the day off, but the Undying Demon Emperor now served as the chief referee. 0. Tang San had nothing against it. With the Undying Demon Emperor presiding, he felt reassured. At the very least, Mei Gongzi wouldn't be in any danger and could go all out. 0. Mei Gongzi's opponent was a woman of striking beauty, with long bright red hair cascading down her back. She appeared to be in her early 30s, and possessed every bit of the grace and allure of a mature woman. 0. She hailed from the Scorching Sunflower clan and was virtually unknown before this tournament. Even within her own clan, few knew much about her. But once the competition began, She emerged from the elimination round with a flawless win streak to reach the semifinals. There, she again won 3 consecutive matches, earning the highest number of victories among the second bracket's contestants. Only then did the audience start paying attention. The power she displayed, especially her explosive combat ability, was in no way inferior to the male contestant representing the Scorching Sunflower clan, the Scorching King. 1. Both sides prepare, the Undying Demon Emperor announced, glancing at each contestant. 0. Silver light shimmered around Mei Gongzi, rippling outward in waves, casting countless overlapping silhouettes of her figure in its glow. 0. Her opponent, the Scorching Sunflower clan's Zhang Chancho, had not even been listed among the clan's great demon kings prior to the competition. Very few people apart from the Sunborn Nymph Emperor were familiar with her. 3. But while her life and evolution were rather mysterious, her performance in battle had demonstrated a dominant and aggressive fighting style. Based on her previous matches, her strength was at least equal to that of the Scorching King, and since female contestants were generally weaker than male ones, her ability to match such power appeared even more impressive. She had stormed through her matches undefeated. 0. Today's match was just as critical for Zhang Chancho as it was for her opponent. If she defeated Mei Gongzi, the rest of her matches would be a breeze. Securing a spot in the top 3 would be practically guaranteed. 1. As the round-robin progressed, matches were growing increasingly intense. Any contestant with hopes of advancing had to give it their all. Holding back now would mean missing their shot. 0. Zhang Chancho gazed at Mei Gongzi, her eyes blazing gold and red. Behind her, illusionary giant blossoms bloomed, and the arena on her side began to ripple and distort, exuding a strange radiance. 0. Begin! The Undying Demon Emperor rose into the air, leaving the arena to the 2 contestants. 0. In a flash, all the illusory giant flowers behind Zhang Chancho solidified. Dozens of fiery pillars erupted like jets of lava, surging toward Mei Gongzi's side. 1. Silver light shimmered around Mei Gongzi as silver portals opened before her, directly confronting the incoming fire pillars and swallowing them whole. 3. The collision of space and fire immediately caused the atmosphere to distort throughout the arena. One side blazed with radiant silver, the other roared with fiery pillars, as the sudden clash turned the stage into a swirling vortex of elemental energy. 0. Spectators, thrilled by the spectacle, erupted into cheers, screaming the names of their favorite contestants with frenzied excitement. 0. Every contestant had fans, not just from their own clans, but also among those who admired strength and skill. Both Mei Gongzi and Zhang Chancho had gained many followers through their previous outstanding performances, and now their supporters roared with unrestrained enthusiasm. 0. Only the truly powerful audience members could see that, despite the visual intensity, both sides were still just probing each other. These opening exchanges were cautious and exploratory. 0. This battle was crucial for both sides, and each contestant was being careful. 0. Tang San's gaze remained fixed on the match, his eyes unblinking. If not for Mei Gongzi's match, he would have already left the arena. If anyone was currently the most popular figure in the battle for the throne, it wasn't the ostensibly mighty radiant Dragon King Suan Yu. It was him, the Amethystan warrior. And after today's match, his popularity was sure to soar to unprecedented levels. But while this popularity certainly had its advantages, it also came with some problems he had to deal with. 0. Both the life annihilation cycle and the holy energy he had revealed just now had stunned the entire ancestral court. Even the emperors were shaken by his strength. Who dared underestimate the Blue Gold Tree Clan's clan leader now? He still had the Scourge Dragon in reserve, and with the evolved Holy Dragon Spear, his strength had reached the very top among great nymph kings. People even felt that with the Scourge Dragon, he might even stand a chance against a low-ranked emperor. 0. More importantly, there was the legend he had created during the battle for the throne. From an overlooked unknown, he had risen step by step to become a hot favorite. At first, it seemed he was relying solely on wealth, but over time, the audience had begun to understand that he was much more than met the eye. He was a mystery, and that mystery was a treasure trove of infinite possibilities. No one could guess what ability this rich wastrel Blue Gold Tree Clan leader might bring out next. And that was precisely what the crowd loved to see. 0. The problem was that, of course, he had revealed a lot. Too much, maybe. Point 0. Tang San had every intention of remaining as low profile as possible, doing his best not to use any of his true abilities and only resorting to the things he'd bought in the auction and some clever strategizing. But now, as the tournament progressed, a low profile was no longer something he could maintain by choice. He had to pay great attention. Point 0. And speaking of people who kept a low profile but were secretly true powerhouses, this Jiang Chancho was certainly one of them. As he watched the match, Tang San started nodding. This great nymph king was indeed worthy of admiration. Point 0. Jiang Chancho's flaming pillars struck Mei Gongzi's spatial gates, but they were not fully absorbed before they started detonating. Clearly, she was using the explosive force of fire to deplete Mei Gongzi's space energy. Point 0. Clearly, she had studied Mei Gongzi carefully and was familiar with her abilities. She was also familiar with her weaknesses, namely that, in terms of cultivation and experience, Mei Gongzi was probably the weakest contestant in the entire battle for the throne. After all, she had only recently advanced to the Great Demon King level. Point 0. Thus Jiang Chancho came in with a clear strategy: attrition. By leveraging her formidable fire element power, she aimed to exhaust Mei Gongzi's space-manipulating bloodline. Point 0. Would that really work? Hard to tell. Mei Gongzi's true strength lay in the Azura sword, which had already made a stunning appearance during her match against Lan Maqian. But judging by Jiang Chancho's composed and measured demeanor, she seemed well prepared. Point 0. At that thought, Tang San's eyes lit up. He had realized something. Point 0. On the battlefield, Mei Gongzi immediately sensed her opponent's intentions and wasted no time reacting. Though she was less experienced than others, that did not make her a greenhouse flower. She had been through her own share of battles. Point 0. A red gleam flashed between her brows, and in the next moment, the Azura shadow sword appeared in her grasp. Mei Gongzi's aura changed in an instant. Towering sword intent soared skyward, dyeing her surroundings a vivid crimson. Her control over space under the influence of the Azura sword instantly solidified. No matter how violently the flames crashed against the silver spatial gates, they remained unmoved. Point 0. In the previous match, Mei Gongzi had begun using Star Shift with the Azura sword. That was the first time this powerful combination had revealed its incredible potential. Now the Azura sword moved in elegant arcs around her, stirring immense vortexes of space energy that pulled in the opponent's blazing pillars, rapidly compressing the golden red beams before her. Point 0. Jiang Chancho responded instantly. The flame pillars vanished abruptly. Though she was still in her human form and didn't show any intention to revert to her real body, the fiery sunflowers behind her merged rapidly into a colossal blossom. Soon, a blazing sunflower over 50 meters in diameter bloomed before Mei Gongzi. Point 0. Fiery golden red light churned within it, gradually forming a massive vortex. Even the audience could clearly sense how this vortex devoured fire energy from the air, and even drew in sunlight. Its energy levels were climbing at a geometric rate. Point 3. The earlier exchanges had been nothing more than probing, but now it was clear. The real showdown was about to begin. Point 0. By now, the audience had fallen silent. Every spectator was holding their breath in awe. Everyone knew that once the two sides clashed again, it would shake the heavens. Whoever gained the upper hand in this direct clash would likely dominate the entire battle. Point 0. In the rest area, Tang San's expression had grown solemn. Little Mei, can you see through your opponent's strategy? You can do this, right? I believe in you. 0. Jiang Chancho's counter to Mei Gongzi's attack was undeniably wise. In the last battle, Mei Gongzi had used the power of Star Shift to redirect Lan Maqian's energy back at her, layering it with her own for a shocking sword strike. Had the Earthshade Nymph Emperor not intervened as referee, Lan Maqian's life might have ended there. Point 0. That encounter had clearly been a warning sign to Jiang Chancho. Mei Gongzi's devastating sword wasn't powered solely by her own strength. It had relied significantly on the force borrowed from her opponent. So then what if she had no such force to borrow? 0. Naturally, the sword's destructive power would be reduced. Point 0. For that reason, the moment Jiang Chancho noticed Mei Gongzi preparing her sword attack, she halted her own attacks. Her goal was to leave Mei Gongzi with no energy to steal. Meanwhile, she used the time to gather more fire energy and condense it into a massive force, ready to clash head-on when Mei Gongzi launched her strike. Point 0. Mei Gongzi, however, seemed unfazed by her opponent's shift. After a slow rotation of the Azura sword around her body, she raised it high overhead. Radiant red light burst forth again. Carrying the will to judge all under heaven, Mei Gongzi's eyes turned crimson as well, and her gaze locked intently on her foe. At that moment, it felt as though the world's righteous energy had entirely concentrated into the Azura sword. 0. Zhang Chuncho could feel the immense pressure too. No matter how prepared she was, facing the Azura sword directly meant confronting a terrifying, unbreakable sword in 10.0. In her eyes, Mei Gongzi now seemed as towering and vast as a divine citadel, and that upcoming strike radiated a force that could overturn the sky. 0. Both sides were building up power, while high above, the undying demon emperor had begun releasing beams of light into the protective array below. The ancestral court was certainly sparing no expenses to maintain the defenses and keep spectators safe. 0. That said, the referees preferred decisive fights over drawn-out battles. Though explosive clashes were harder on the arena, they were preferable to prolonged slugfests. At the level of Great Demon Kings, bloodline power could be regenerated as it was used in a very efficient cycle. Moreover, some could even tap into their ancestral source of bloodline power, and while this could not be used for attacking directly, otherwise the rules of the competition would have prohibited it, nobody stopped them from using it to recover. And that supply was virtually endless. Once such duels started, they could go on for hours on end. This had already occurred once or twice during the elimination rounds. 0. Compared to that, head-on clashes involving ultimate moves were more dangerous but also more time-efficient. These showdowns tested one's foundations, experience, skill, and preparation. Confident fighters would always prefer this style. They would never let their opponent entangle them. After all, who didn't have flaws? For instance, Mei Gongzi's weaknesses were her comparatively lower energy pool and lack of experience. Naturally, by using a power shot from the very start, she set her own strong side against the opponent's weakness. 0. With the Divine Art Star shift in her arsenal, Mei Gongzi's choice to clash directly left her opponent no other options. If her opponent attacked during her charge-up, there was a real chance their attack would be absorbed and used against them. Zhang Chuncho knew this, and so, her response was optimal. 0. Mei Gongzi took a deep breath and stepped forward through the void. The Azura shadow sword in her hand blazed into the sky, becoming a dazzling streak of red. The enormous sword light radiated a force capable of sundering heaven and earth. Even the mighty flaming sunflower, so immense it seemed to scorch the ground, paled before this crimson brilliance. 0. From her own pavilion, Lan Maqin watched with a grave expression. 0. Though she had lost to Mei Gongzi, she had never truly accepted it, and had repeatedly reviewed the fight, trying to see what she could have done differently. In the end, she hadn't clashed directly with Mei Gongzi's final blow, and she knew it was beyond her ability to block. The Earthshade Nymph Emperor had saved her. Still, she believed that half the power behind that devastating attack came from the force Mei Gongzi borrowed from her. 0. Mei Gongzi's divine item was indeed powerful, but if it solely relied on her own cultivation, it shouldn't have been that overwhelming. 0. Yet now, as Lan Maqin watched Mei Gongzi raise the sword again and launch that incredible slash, she couldn't help but sigh to herself. Even without borrowing her power, the strike would have probably been enough to cleave through both her swords, and maybe her skull as well. 0. As they say, the bystander sees more clearly than the one involved. When Mei Gongzi's sword descended, it felt as though the sky was cracking open and a heavenly judge was bestowing judgment upon mortal beings. It wasn't just an energy attack, it also carried a terrifying assault on the divine consciousness. Even the undying demon emperor in the sky was reinforcing the protective array with all his might. Why? It was to prevent this one strike from completely destroying the arena's defenses. 0. At that very moment, a flash of golden light suddenly gleamed in front of Zhang Chuncho. From within that golden radiance, two distinct cries rang out. 0. One was a thunderous, domineering dragon's roar. 0. The other, a clear and unmatched phoenix's cry, echoing with the grace of a sovereign blessing their subjects. 0. Accompanied by these voices, a dragon and a phoenix, both golden red, spiraled in front of Zhang Chuncho, forming an enormous glowing shield that enclosed the blazing sunflower she had transformed into. 0. The undying golden body. Ning Chunen, who was closely following the battle, blurted out the name almost instantly. 0. Yes, it was the undying golden body. The final item of the mega auction, lauded as the strongest one as well, had finally made its appearance. To everybody's surprise, it hadn't ended up with the Scorching King, the leader of the Scorching Sunflower clan. It was now in the hands of Jiang Chunqiu, a dark horse among female contestants. 0. No wonder Jiang Chunqiu dared to face the Azura sword head-on. She had been waiting for this strike. 0. The undying golden body had likely been designed specifically to counter one-shot one-kill attacks, like Qiu Zixuan's world-sundering sword and Mei Gongzi's Azura sword. And now, just like in the case of Tang San's fight against Qiu Zixuan, the match had turned into the strongest shield pitted against the sharpest sword. 0. The shield had won last time. Which one would win this time? 0. In that instant, all the top contestants held their breath, staring intently. Whoever gained the upper hand in this clash would have a huge advantage in the tournament's outcome. 0. The Scorching Sunflower clan had clearly made a wise investment in winning the auction for the undying golden body. While their clan was renowned for its devastating offense, especially in wide area and ranged attacks, they lacked adequate defense. The stronger the clan member, the more prominent this flaw became. As their opponents grew in power and versatility, the Scorching Sunflower clan's vulnerability to direct hits became increasingly dangerous. 0. The undying golden body resolved this perfectly. With its incredible defense and perfect compatibility with fire, it not only dealt with the glaring flaws but even enhanced the user's own elemental affinity. 0. But the question remained, could the undying golden body withstand the Azura sword? 0. From high above, the undying demon emperor watched with keen interest. 0. Mei Gongzi's performance so far had exceeded his expectations. Her last victory over Lan Maqian had all but secured her a spot in the top 3 of the round robin. Now, however, she was facing the undying golden body, an item he himself had put up for auction. He was nervous too. Even he didn't know whether the Azura sword could break it. 0. Why hadn't he given the item to Mei Gongzi? For one, although the undying golden body had immense defense, it came with a drawback. The user could not move while using it. Moreover, though the undying golden body was powerful, it consumed enormous amounts of energy and resources. After each use, recharging it required astronomical amounts of energy. Also, for all practical purposes, it was a consumable, as it could only be used once by each person. 0. Most critically, it was the joint creation of a dragon and a phoenix. While those of other races could wield it without issue, both dragons and phoenixes would experience interference due to the other bloodline power. Long-term use could even impede their cultivation. Naturally, Mei Gongzi would have also been impacted. 0. Besides, if he had directly given the item to Mei Gongzi, the instant it appeared, it would have exposed her connection to the immortal Flame Phoenix clan. Before Mei Gongzi ascended to emperorhood, this could not be revealed, unless there was a life-and-death situation. Otherwise, everyone would unite to prevent the Phoenix race from producing a third emperor. 0. After weighing all these factors, the undying demon emperor had chosen to auction it instead. 0. Little Mei, I hope I didn't make the wrong decision. If the undying golden body ended up causing her to lose the throne, the undying demon emperor would deeply regret it. Of course, if it came to the final stages of the competition, he had other plans. 0. A brilliant red sword beam collided violently with the blazing golden red shield in the next instant. 0. A terrifying explosion of energy erupted at the moment of impact. 0. Blinding light mixed with overwhelming sword intent painted the entire arena in gold and crimson. The protective barrier visibly intensified, then surged toward collapse at a speed visible to the naked eye. 0. Fortunately, the match was being overseen by a top-tier emperor. In the sky, the undying demon emperor summoned a massive fire phoenix projection above his head. Fiery feathers descended, merging into the protective formation and stabilizing it, albeit barely. 0. The Azura sword was now hacking down hard against the undying golden body's radiant shield. The two divine items clashed in a violent explosion of energy. 0. Two sorrowful cries, a dragon and a phoenix, echoed out in the same instant. The undying golden body began showing signs of collapse. 0. But then, in the very next moment, just as the shield shattered, A golden dragon and a crimson phoenix emerged and merged into the dazzling red sword light. 0. All three, dragon, phoenix, and sword, vanished simultaneously. 0. It happened incredibly fast. From the energy explosion to the appearance and disappearance of the dragon and phoenix, barely 2 blinks of an eye had passed. 0. At that precise moment, Zhang Chuncho, who had been holding back all this time, finally launched her counterattack. The massive blazing sunflower erupted, shooting a golden fire pillar over 50 meters thick toward Mei Gongzi. The pillar radiated fierce brilliance in the air, violently twisting the surrounding space with overwhelming force. 0. The undying golden body had neutralized Mei Gongzi's full-power Azura sword strike, and now came Zhang Chuncho's strongest assault, aiming directly at Mei Gongzi. 0. There was no doubt. Zhang Chuncho's strategy was brilliantly executed. The undying golden body had withstood the Azura sword. And now Mei Gongzi, with her arms still raised and seemingly unable to follow up with another attack, appeared completely exposed. 0. A deep hum resonated at that exact moment. 0. Despite being in dire straits, Mei Gongzi's expression didn't change in the slightest. 0. The Azura shadow sword suddenly flew away from her hand. The red light around it faded, retreating into the center of her brow. In its place, a gray-black shadowy sword appeared from thin air, meeting the massive lava pillar head-on. 0. But that illusory sword looked utterly fragile, nowhere near the awe-inspiring might of the earlier Azura shadow sword. And when it collided with the oncoming torrent of fire, it seemed like nothing more than a moth to a flame. 0. The undying demon emperor's gaze sharpened, and he prepared to intervene. If anything seemed off, he would act immediately to save Mei Gongzi. Although she was able to use Nirvana Rebirth, using it would expose her Phoenix bloodline. He would rather see her lose the match than risk revealing that. 0. But just then a flicker of shock crossed his eyes, and he stopped in place. 0. A fraction of a second later, Mei Gongzi's delicate form was completely engulfed by the colossal fire pillar. 0-inch Little Mei. In the Peacock Demon Clan's pavilion, Luo Qingzhu and Su Qin leapt out almost at the same time, charging toward the protective barrier. But the defensive array, capable of even withstanding the power of an emperor's strike, was not something they could break through. Neither of them was anywhere near the level of the combatants on stage. "Stay calm. She's fine." A deep voice rang simultaneously in their ears. Hearing that voice, Su Qin's tense nerves finally relaxed a little. Luo Qingzhu, on the other hand, wore an expression of stunned surprise. In the sky, after the eruption of the fire pillar, the blinding light lingered in the air for several seconds before finally dispersing into a rain of golden red light. Many spectators had their mouths agape. Against an attack of that magnitude, how could a human peacock demon, or even white tiger, possibly hold up? None of these were particularly known for their defense. Her strongest attack had been blocked by the opponent's ultimate defensive divine item, only for her to suffer a devastating counter. Mei Gongzi hadn't just lost the match. If she'd actually taken the full power of the blow, it was likely that she had been obliterated outright. Yet just as the audience was reeling from shock, they were dumbfounded to see that right there, in midair, a breathtaking figure was still standing. Mei Gongzi remained suspended in the sky, still reigning over the battlefield. Entirely unaffected? How is that possible? The eyes of all spectators nearly popped out of their sockets. They simply couldn't believe what they were seeing. That was the full-powered strike of a peak great demon king. Even an emperor couldn't easily brush that off. Not to mention, Mei Gongzi had already unleashed her own powerful attack already, and for it to cause the undying golden body to collapse, it must have been her all-out move. How could she still have withstood such a counterstrike? Completely defied logic. But no matter how much doubt surged in the hearts of the onlookers, Mei Gongzi remained aloft in the sky, unharmed. In the next moment, a chilling aura burst from her body. The temperature across the entire arena plummeted. A grim murderess will turn the entire space a murky gray-black. Mei Gongzi's figure vanished, replaced by illusory phantoms roaming within the ashen world. Endless killing intent surged toward Zhang Chuncho from all directions, encircling her step by step. This was the evolved god-killing domain, the Azura Hell domain. Of all those present, Zhang Chuncho was undoubtedly the most shocked. Seeing Mei Gongzi emerge in midair, as if her earlier strike had been nothing but a gentle pat on the head, nearly made her cry out in shock. Indeed, she had gone all in on that previous attack. Even a peak Great Demon King would need time to recover after expending so much energy. Yet her opponent was already launching another attack, summoning a domain Jiang Chancho had never seen before. Now she felt countless cold blades of killing intent converging on her from all sides. In her weakened state, the very air around her turned viscous, her footing seemed to sink downward. Within this domain, Mei Gongzi's shadows surrounded her, and deathly intent locked onto her from all directions. Forced to disregard the toll of her last attack, Jiang Chancho erupted with all her might again. Sunflowers burst outward, launching pillars of fire in every direction. She had reverted to her true form for the first time. At the same time, she activated her own blazing sun domain in an effort to resist Mei Gongzi's assault. But she was already one step behind. When Mei Gongzi erupted, the Azura Hell domain had already enveloped her completely. A cold voice whispered in her ear, as though it were right beside her. Panic surged within Jiang Chancho. She unleashed her flame pillars wildly in every direction. A sharp cry sounded. Jiang Chancho felt a tremor deep within her soul. Just then, searing pain surged from her sea of consciousness. Her flame pillars faltered for a split second. In that instant, a figure appeared before her. White hair cascaded down her back, and though her veil still hid the expression on her face, she was radiating so much killing intent that she was painful to even look at. A single pair of razor-sharp claws shredded 7 blazing sunflowers. The terrifying killing intent, entwined with space power, exploded in a wave of sharpness that could slice through anything. Jiang Chancho groaned as searing pain racked her sea of consciousness, and a moment later, she was forced back into human form. A tiger claw was holding her throat, and she felt that no matter what she did, that claw of despair would simply end her life in a split second. Jiang Chancho met her opponent's eyes. Brilliant golden irises, vertical pupils brimming with boundless killing intent. In that moment, they etched themselves into her consciousness. Her sea of consciousness froze, her vision went black, and she knew nothing more. On the battlefield, all light and illusion faded. The flame pillars vanished, and so did the domain filled with endless killing aura. The audience finally saw the two figures clearly again. Mei Gongzi stood in the center of the stage. Her hair had turned white, and her right hand was raised, not to signal surrender but to grip Jiang Chancho by the throat. The undying demon emperor's voice was calm, but carried a trace of something else, an odd nuance. But even the emperor's presence didn't catch the subtle change in his tone. All their focus and astonishment were locked on the figure in the arena. White tiger transformation. When Mei Gongzi tilted her head slightly, a few strands of black hair still peeked from amidst the white, like the stripes of a tiger. Her golden yellow eyes, shining from under the veil, lent her a fearsome edge and an overwhelming dominance. She had won. Even facing a powerful scorching sunflower, and equipped with a supreme divine item like the undying golden body, she had still won. In the next instant, the demon audience erupted into thunderous cheers. Among the female contestants, only 3 demon representatives had made it to the semi-finals. And now Mei Gongzi led the pack with a perfect win record. Both Lan Maqian and Jiang Chancho were top-tier contestants, with the highest chances of reaching the top 3 in the female bracket. Defeating them both meant Mei Gongzi had all but secured her spot in the finals. And she represented demonkind. She represented the Empyrean Dominion. At that moment, Mei Gongzi's prestige soared. Meanwhile, Jiang Chancho's supporters were left in stunned silence. Mei Gongzi slowly laid Jiang Chancho on the ground. The opponent had merely had her divine consciousness sealed and was otherwise unharmed. She could recover later. Mei Gongzi, of course, would not truly injure her. After all, in the next round, Jiang Chancho would face Lan Maqian. No matter who won or lost, the key was for them to wear each other down. Jiang Chancho could not use the golden undying body again, so she would have to face Lan Maqian's swords with her own power alone. Of course, she was by no means weak, just more squishy. In turn, Lan Maqian may have lost easily to Mei Gongzi, but that was partly due to lack of preparation. She hadn't understood Star Shift or the Azura sword well enough. In terms of raw power, Lan Maqian was likely stronger than Jiang Chancho, though the margin wasn't all that high. Once their divine items came into play, the outcome was far from predictable. It would come down to their performance on the day. Meanwhile, with 4 wins and 8 points, Mei Gongzi now stood alone at the top. The white in her hair gradually faded to black. Mei Gongzi stepped gracefully through the void and returned to her pavilion. That was what all the spectators were still thinking about, remembering the shocking moment when she emerged unscathed from the massive fire pillar. That fire had completely engulfed her, yet she hadn't been harmed at all. That just didn't add up. How had she survived Zhang Chuncho's all-out strike so easily? Only the emperors and a select few of the most powerful contestants had sensed what had really happened. Of course, Zhang Chuncho's attack hadn't been in vain, and neither had Mei Gongzi just shrugged it off, the way it appeared to the spectators. But at that critical moment, when the Azura sword's power was exhausted by that strike, that faint sword shadow that had appeared like a flicker of darkness meant the difference between life and death. The Azura sword in Mei Gongzi's hand was actually the Azura shadow sword. Physically speaking, it was still just a somewhat improved Shadow Fiend sword. Only the intent within was that of the Azura sword. If the true transcendent divine item were present, not even 10 undying golden bodies could block it for a single fraction of a second. Thus, while Mei Gongzi used the Azura shadow sword simply to manifest the Azura sword, the innate abilities of the original still remained. Chief among them was its ability to absorb energy, and just as Tang San had predicted, replicate whatever ability it was used to channel. And that was exactly what the sword shadow had been. A replicated version of Mei Gongzi's prior Azura sword strike. Though unimpressive in appearance, it was actually no different in form from the original attack. Its power was less than 50% of the original, yet even at 50%, it carried the same overpowering sword intent. In the face of Zhang Chuncho's full-force strike, it lacked the power to counterattack, but it was more than enough to defend. It was this very sword shadow that carved out a protective space within the fire pillar, shielding Mei Gongzi from harm. This was Mei Gongzi's first time using the sword shadow, so she wasn't exactly sure about the best way to use it. Otherwise, had the sword shadow been unleashed together with the actual Azura sword strike in her initial attack, Zhang Chuncho might not even have had the chance to strike back. Perhaps the undying golden body would have still protected her, but it would not have protected the massive sunflower that she had been preparing behind her. Had it detonated right behind Zhang Chuncho's back, the impact would have been devastating. Even so, Mei Gongzi had won. Though she had yet to familiarize herself with all her abilities, she had enough combat experience to draw on. As the Azura sword was momentarily depleted and could not be used in the short term, she transitioned into a fusion of White Tiger transformation and Peacock transformation, and turned the tide using the Azura Hell domain. Back in the pavilion, Mei Gongzi sat down, exhausted. Her face was visibly pale. Facing such a powerful opponent had drained her. But her gaze was firm and resolute. After her recent talk with her mothers, she had made up her mind. She would not leave anything to chance or fate. She would give it her all and fight to win the championship. Only by becoming the final victor could she take her fate into her own hands. Once that happened, not even an emperor would easily be able to dictate her choices, especially with the White Tiger Demon Emperor and Undying Demon Emperor behind her. More importantly, when she ascended to emperorhood, the Empyrean Dominion would have its most powerful pillar yet. Of course, her biological father was not even considered in the equation. She felt no particular affection for Lin Shima, in spite of his repeated attempts to earn it. As long as her mother didn't forgive him, she would never reach out to him. Whether it was Tang San's battle against Li Xiaoping or Mei Gongzi's duel with Zhang Chuncho, both had been utterly thrilling, awe-inspiring performances. The audience's blood was boiling. This was what they were here for. This was the pinnacle of combat. Watching the end of the match, Tang San couldn't hide the smile on his face. Little big sister Mei, you've truly grown. She had faced her most formidable opponent yet, and she had been unable to rely on his guidance. Yet even though she still had some rough areas that needed to be polished, they had not prevented her from emerging victorious. There was no doubt, battles were the fastest way for her to grow stronger. All right, this settles it. Let's go. Tang San waved at Ning Chenen.
Ning Chen wore a strange expression.
Brother Jean, you've really got an eye for people. Honestly, I never imagined Lord Mei could be this powerful. Looks like she's going to be one of the top contenders for the throne. Tang San smiled slightly. Well, of course. That's the woman I love. How could she not be strong?
Ning Chen and Said.
What a pity. I'm already married, and Lan Maqian would never let me even think of such things, or I might have entered the matchmaking tournament myself. Tang San shook his head. Are you really sure it's a pity? If you did that, you'd be my rival in love, and who knows what might have happened to you. Haha, joking. Anyway, don't forget to discuss my proposal with your master when you return. With that, Tang San called over the elders of the Blue Gold Tree clan and left the rest area. The moment they stepped out of the competition grounds, the elders could no longer contain themselves and erupted in thunderous cheers. Jean Miaosen rushed up to Tang San, threw her arms around his waist, and in the next second hurled him into the air. Long live the clan leader! Long live! Long live! The elders ignored the sidelong glances from the ancestral court's guards outside the arena and shouted madly in celebration. The Grand Elder was in tears. The finals. He's really going to the finals. After watching Tang San defeat Tenebrous Dragon King Li Xiaopeng, how could they not recognize the immense potential of their clan leader? He had relied heavily on external forces for other matches. One could even say that others had won the matches for him. But this time was completely different. As it turned out, even in the ancestral court, he could summon the power of the ancestral tree to aid him. This was strong proof of the power of his bloodline and his connection to the ancestral tree. And he'd hidden it all so well. Their clan leader had been playing the pig to eat the tiger all along. Now, he had made it into the final 6, the core contenders in the battle for the throne. And then there was the Scourge Dragon. Together with Nihil, their clan leader could likely duke it out with an emperor. And that was even without being an emperor himself. What would happen once he ascended? Right? Just what if, he really does win the emperor's seat? If that happened, the Blue Gold Tree clan would produce another emperor. Not only that, but the glory of the ancestral tree era might just return. The realization filled the elders with elation and disbelief. For a moment, they couldn't contain their emotions at all. Tang San sighed inwardly. If there were any other way, he wouldn't have wanted to expose so much of his actual power. But against someone like Li Xiaopeng with the misfortune pearl to boot, he had no choice. Otherwise, he might well have been forced to use the discerning eye of heaven, and that was extremely risky. After being tossed into the air 3 times by the jubilant elders, Tang San was finally let down. Big brother, you really had us fooled. You're that powerful? Why didn't you tell us earlier? Jean Miaosen complained. Tang San laughed. Tell you what? I never hid anything. Didn't you all know I inherited the ancestral tree's legacy? Back when I defeated the Adamant Nymph Emperor, didn't I summon the ancestral tree's projection? If anything, it was even stronger than this. Jean Miaosen stared at him speechless. Indeed, when Tang San fought the Adamant Nymph Emperor, the power he had shown was even greater. In fact, the ancestral tree had nearly descended in full. But back then, the clan had just assumed that it was only possible because the ancestral tree was nearby. That at longer distances it wouldn't work as well. On the other hand, Tang San had never once said he couldn't summon the ancestral tree from here. And judging from today's match, although the summon power wasn't quite as overwhelming as before, it was still plenty. In other words, his reserve power had always been greater than they had imagined. Come on, let's get some rest. The tournament's not over yet. He had already secured enough wins, but there were still 3 matches remaining. His next opponents were Ning Chenen, the Scorching King, and a Great Demon King from the Immortal Flame Phoenix clan. From the current standings, Ning Chenen still had a chance of breaking into the top 3, since his results were better than Jin Ongua's. But as for the Scorching King and the Immortal Flame Phoenix contestant, their prospects were bleak. Particularly the Immortal Flame Phoenix Great Demon King. He hadn't won a single match yet and was almost certainly eliminated. Even if he somehow picked up a win today, the chances of advancing were slim. Based on the current standings among the male contestants, aside from Tang San, who had already secured his spot in the top 3, the remaining 2 spots would be contested among Su and Yu, Ning Chenen and Jin Onghua. Ning Chenen and Jin Onghua were clearly aligned. They were in the same boat, so to speak, and some under-the-table arrangements between them were definitely possible. But everyone has their own ambitions, and no matter how close the alliance, It's normal for personal interest to take precedence. Who knew how things would go? Right now, Donghua had only one win while Ning Qian'an had two. If Tang San were to let Ning Qian'an win their upcoming match, Ning Qian'an would have 3 wins, equaling Suan Yu's record. Though defeating Suan Yu in a direct confrontation might prove difficult, he'd still be ahead of Donghua in points. Then it would all come down to the result of the match between Ning Qian'an and Donghua. Whoever won that match would advance to the finals. Tang San's idea of letting Ning Qian'an win was based precisely on this logic. Now that Li Xiaoping had withdrawn, Donghua and Suan Yu were essentially gifted a win each. That tilted things too much in their favor. What Tang San wanted was to force Donghua to directly compete with Ning Qian'an, and well, may the better fighter win. So long as the Golden Mammoth Demon Emperor had designs on that emperor's seat, he would undoubtedly agree to the conditions Tang San had proposed to Ning Qian'an earlier. Obviously, after Tang San's series of victories, who could still claim to beat him with confidence? And on the off chance Ning Qian'an lost to him, he'd fall out of top 3 contention entirely. In fact, Tang San had no intention of participating in his last 3 round-robin matches. He had no particular desire to fight the Scorching King, and more importantly, he could pretend to give the Sunborn Nymph Emperor face while losing nothing at all. Besides, even if the Scorching King managed to get one more win from Tang San, his overall chances were practically nil. If he'd had the Undying Golden Body himself, maybe he could put up a fight, but without it he had no chance at all. On the way back, Tang San had already figured out why the Undying Golden Body ended up with Zhang Chanshou, and not the Scorching King. It wasn't just a matter of Zhang Chanshou being the one with more potential. It was also because the Misfortune Pearl was on the male side. The Undying Golden Body defended against physical and bloodline power attacks, but it couldn't protect against fortune manipulation. Even if the Scorching King had it, he still wouldn't have been able to counter the Misfortune Pearl. Better to give it to Zhang Chanshou and secure a sure spot in the finals through the female bracket. As for how the Scorching Sunflower clan knew the Misfortune Pearl was on the male side, that was likely due to deals and exchanges among the emperors. Tang San's unexpected rise had clearly disrupted many of the emperor's original plans. For example, the Behemoth clan and the Golden Mammoth clan likely had long-standing plans to have Donghua and Ning Qian'an cooperate and qualify together, then work together to take down Suan Yu. The Behemoth clan had demonstrated remarkable strength this tournament. Even if Dongua's score looked unimpressive, that was really just bad luck. He and Lan Maqian were both extremely powerful. Together with Ning Qian'an, they had a solid chance of securing at least one seat. In contrast, the Dragon race had placed their hopes on Radiant Dragon King Suan Yu and Tenebrous Dragon King Li Xiaopeng. But the two belonged to opposing camps and would never work together. In fact, they were outright rivals. Among demonkind, the ones in the worst shape seemed to be the Phoenix race. Even though the Undying Demon Emperor was the most powerful being in the entire Empyrean Dominion and his clan was also one of the most powerful, his representative had no hope whatsoever of entering the finals. But all that was just surface level. No one realized that the Undying Demon Emperor's actual representative was not the immortal Flame Phoenix Great Demon King, but Mei Gongzi. On the surface, it looked like he was avoiding provoking a backlash by giving up on a third Phoenix Emperor. In truth, he had been laying the groundwork in secret all along. Tang San, having some insider knowledge, could roughly infer the dynamics of these power struggles between emperors. Among them, the most calculating was undoubtedly the Undying Demon Emperor, and Tang San, of course, was not going to ruin his calculations. On the female side, after Mei Gongzi's performance today, she had virtually no more opponents. Her entry into the finals was practically guaranteed, and as the top female seed for that matter. If she and Tang San both finished in first place in their respective brackets, they wouldn't meet early in the finals, and that would be the ideal scenario. The finals used a double elimination format. Losing twice meant elimination. As the top seeds of both brackets, if they kept winning, Tang San and Mei Gongzi would only face each other in the last match, and that was the best possible outcome. By then, Tang San would know very well what he was supposed to do. Everything was proceeding exactly as he wanted. The next priority was actually defeating Suan Yu. But to do so, Tang San knew he'd have to show some of his real cards. Only by beating Suan Yu and sending him to the losers bracket could he avoid an early clash between Suan Yu and Mei Gongzi. If Suan Yu was in the losers bracket, the odds of anyone else beating Mei Gongzi in the winners bracket were extremely low. So in the finals, Tang San couldn't afford to lose a single match, until he faced Mei Gongzi, of course. With a clear plan laid out, Tang San's expression softened into a faint smile. "Little Mei, wait for me. Once this is over, we will be able to be together again, and this time out in the open." A while later, round 4 of the semifinals ended. The most spectacular matches of the round were the first two. Due to the withdrawal of Li Xiaoping, Suan Yu got a free win. Donghua also successfully defeated the Scorching King and notched a victory. Ning Chen fought a grueling hour-long battle against Lu Fuyao. Thanks to his powerful defense, he completely wore down his opponent, forcing Lu Fuyao into defeat. Both Suan Yu and Ning Chen now had 3 wins. Donghua had 2. Li Xiaoping also had 2 initially, but he had been forced to withdraw, so he was out of the equation. The standings among the male contestants had become clear. On the female side, Mei Gongzi stood alone with 4 victories. The battles between the first and second brackets had only just begun, so the final top 3 were still undecided. But one thing was certain: there was no way she would not be in the finals. And with that, her support in the Empyrean Dominion surged. But no one expected what happened next. The wildly popular Amethystan warrior, Lord of Skytree City, and leader of the Blue Gold Tree clan vanished. Yes, Jin Miaolin vanished. When the next round began, namely, his match against Ning Chen, he simply didn't show up at the arena and thus forfeited the round. This greatly disappointed countless fans who had eagerly anticipated what new tricks he might unveil next. Some even began shouting for refunds. Speculation about his absence ran rampant. The most common theory was that, with his point total already securing him the top spot, there was no need to continue fighting and risk revealing more of his power. It was better to save it for the final rounds. After all, Jin Miaolin had 6 wins worth of points. The only person with a chance to match that would have been Suan Yu, but since Suan Yu had forfeited their match, then Jin Miaolin held the tiebreaker. So even if Suan Yu also finished with 6 wins, Jin Miaolin would still be ranked first. The remaining matches held no meaning for him. Other theories claimed he had run out of tricks or reached his limit. Regardless, the audience was deeply unsatisfied. Watching the Amethystan Warriors matches had become one of their greatest thrills. Now that joy was gone, and even the enthusiasm for the battle for the throne was beginning to dip because of it.